Yo, 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 yo. What's up, what's up, what's up? Give up the rock. And hello to my fellow revolutionaries. You know who you are. You know who you are. And welcome to today's live stream. It is the 16th of December today, Tuesday, the 16th of December. And as we keep noting, we're getting closer and closer to the end of the year. A long, a long working year. I'm sure you've all produced a lot of value this year, directly or indirectly, for the service of capital and capitalism. And so I hope you are feeling that vibe, that worker vibe, that you're coming to the close of the year, time for, a bit of celebration, a bit of time to unwind, a bit of time to relax. Like I said, after a long year of servicing capital and making value for other people, hopefully value that gets back into your society, your culture, your country somehow. But yeah, we're winding down. We're winding down, and today we're going to be keeping on the journey, if you know what I mean, in regards to what happened over the weekend at Bondi. So yesterday there was a little bit of speculation. Kind of people in the chat had some interesting sources and wanted to have a look at kind of some of the theories that have been coming out in response to what happened on Sunday. And like, I'm all for looking at theories, but I wanted to keep yesterday kind of a little bit more about, the event themselves and what people had to say about it. But we're going to dive into some theories today, can I just say. Dilemma's in the house doing the roll call. How are you? What's up? What's up? Give it up for all the Americans jumping on the attack because they were Jewish, not because they were Australian. Interesting, very interesting. I wonder if you're like talking about the culture wars there and people just using this for their own agendas. I'm assuming that's what we're talking about, but correct me if I'm wrong. Lap Jeff in the house, brother. How are you? It's good to have you. And Southeast sounds odds. It's a crazy time to be a conspiracy theorist. I bet you there's, every generation people like to say stuff like that. It's a crazy time to be a conspiracy theorist because, like, the longer we go throughout this system, this style of economy, this style of society that we have, the more and the more of the intrigue unfolds and becomes apparent to us, and the more it will become apparent to us as well in the information age. And so, yeah, we're going to get into some of those theories today. There was a few people that had put some stuff in Discord. So if you're not aware, we have a Discord. Like, if you just look up in the top, we have a Discord community and we drop our propaganda, and people were dropping some crazy propaganda yesterday about some theories, let's call them, on what was happening. What was happening with Bondi? Is this some kind of lone wolf father and son team? Are they connected to something else? Is this part of some type of state level propaganda? Is this part of the usual imperialism that happens across the world? Is this a false flag, etc., etc., etc.? And like, I really didn't want to get into that yesterday. I wanted to pay as much respect as we could to the people that have been affected by this, victims and other persons alike, and just kind of reflect on that. But it's been like a day and a half since, and it would seem that the mainstream media is already turning in this direction anyway, because people are, as part of their usual process, they're clamoring for answers, and so theories are now running wild. So let's kind of look into some theories around this and try to get some more of an understanding of what was going on there, and then we'll move on to some other stuff. I don't want to do this to death, if you know what I mean. Yeah, pretty much no one cares it was Australians, and it shits me. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? It's interesting the way that the narrative has been formed. It's an attack on a particular group of people. It's not an attack on Australia. It's not an attack on Australian soil, etc., etc. There is mixed rhetoric around that. Like, as a nation, we wrap our hands around certain people. That was a trope, a piece of language that was used a lot. But, is it dividing people, or segmenting, not dividing, but like segmenting people into different like groups and affiliations, as opposed to, making this a national issue, because it would seem that the reason that they had made this into a terror event, or classified it as an act of terror, was intentionally for that reason, was to be able to classify this as something of national security. If it's national, I think you've got a point there, Dilemma, is that it's something that involves Australia and Australians. And that includes people on both sides of the aisle. It would seem that the surviving shooter, the young man, 24, is was an Australian-born citizen, so he is Australian, and so the question has to be asked then: what is happening to young Australians? What is happening to young people in this country? Are there other circumstances there? Like, what do we know? What can we know? Etc. 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 So before we get into like theories on things, I was thinking that we would actually have a look. Voltaires in the house, true. How you going? It's good to have you. Yeah, I thought we would actually have a look at an interview. It would seem that our the 24-year-old attacker, I can't remember what his name was, is your typical, I guess, Aussie worker kind of thing. He's a brickie. So if nobody knows what that is, if you would like me to explain it, he's a bricklayer. So he works in construction. And yeah, I found an interview with a co-worker of his. They used to work on site together. They worked on site together for a number of years, so they seem to have spent a bit of time together, and we'll get some words from this dude, so we're gonna understand, I guess, a little bit more about the shooter, because this today, like I said, is going to be about theories. And so like maybe you can formulate your own theory when you hear about this person and what the fuck was going on. Ninja Nurse in the house. Ahmed Al Ahmed, hero, exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. That's really all you need to know there. Exclamation marks. Absolutely. Ninja Nurse, how are you? Hope you are well. Like I said, let's have a listen to this guy speak about the person, and then we're going to dive into some theories. I think it was, I want to say, Taygard yesterday in the chat put in like a kind of a document. Sorry, someone's put a piece of content together documenting some suspicious things that were happening prior to the event, in terms of like searches for the shooter's name, were happening like hours before the event went down in like Is Not Rail and stuff like that. So we're going to look at like some of the theories that are coming out. I've already seen stuff pop up in my feed about, like I said, false flags and all that sort of stuff. So we'll have a look a bit at some of that stuff. I think it's fair at this point to kind of reach out and see what is out there in the discussion, and so you can actually make up your own mind about that, and like digest it all and come to your own thoughts on that one, as opposed to just being, which is what you should be doing as good little media consumers. You should just listen to the narrative that is projected onto you by official sources, and then just kind of do what you're told, think what you're told to think, if you know what I mean. So let's have a quick look here. A current affair top source, don't question it. But like, let's just stick to what our mate here, the bricklayer, has to say about this situation, shall we? If you're watching this on TikTok and you're wondering what is going on, we are also watching videos at the same time. So if you want to follow along with us, click on the YouTube link in the bio, and you can hear too. I want to hear everyone talk about how this man is the most Australian man in Australia right now. He cranked mateship to 11. Yeah, fair enough. Like we can get words from him as well. Actually, I've got an interview they did with him in the hospital, so we can hear it from the horse's mouth, right? If we want. Voltage, my right-wing mate, was going off on the attacker being Muslim. Told him that the guy that stopped a gunman was a Muslim himself. He was like, but he's one of the good ones, quote unquote, LOL. Yeah, I know, right? It's funny, isn't it? And there's talk from Benjamin Netanyahu as well yesterday when they received notice of it, and he's like giving a presentation somewhere, and he said like there's some hero, a Jewish man, a hero that like saved all of these people at this festival and tackled the gunman, etc., etc. But at that point, he was kind of just delivering the story that was this person was Jewish, and then later had to correct himself when he found out that they were Muslim, and then he ended up calling him a hero. So yeah, it's funny. It's going to be hard for the usual propaganda machine of various states, I guess you would say, and media outlets to try and play with that one. Like the mental gymnastics that are going to have to be done in order to be like, oh, this is, an act of pure evil, and like, condemning all Muslims for the account of these two fuckwits kind of thing. And then it's like, it's going to be hard to reconcile that usual narrative with the fact that the person that's potentially saved a lot of lives, when you look at some of the footage, my God, because like this guy before being tackled is just like, standing in the field, really just indiscriminately popping people, and then he is tackled by this Australian hero. It's going to be hard for people in the propaganda machine to reconcile that one and get their usual narrative out. It's going to be very difficult, but I'm sure they'll give it their best in the culture wars. Watch Albo say the rise of right-wing extremism is the case for this. LOL. I think that's case. I'm gonna go with case. The good ones. Ha ha ha. Then watch Albo say the government will do anything it takes except for reform immigration and make ASIO actually do their job. Well, it's interesting that you say that, because this person was like, one of them anyway, was born here. And I think the other one came here in like I want to say the 90s. Maybe that's not right. Maybe the early 2000s. I'm not sure. Long time ago. It's interesting. BB should invite Ahmed for a Medal of Honor, maybe another FIFA Peace Prize or something. That's it. I'm calling it early. It's coming of the day. Ahmed is gonna get the FIFA Peace Prize. Could you imagine Trump standing there and they take the medal off him and he's like, oh, and they award it to Ahmed Ahmed, and like Trump's like, I was so close. I had it in my hands and they took it away from me again. Bastards. All right, let's have a quick listen and then we'll talk some more.
100% that's him.
Yeah, that's him, mate.
And you were just sitting there flicking through social media
and saw that.
Why is it so
What
silent?
did you think when you saw this bloke's face pop up?
Shock, disbelief.
Give you some subtitles.
Proper shock.
Open your mouth, buddy. I can't hear.
Didn't think that someone that you could spend time with day in, day out on a job site could do something so cruel. No matter what the motives are or whatever behind it, it's just, it's wrong. And for what? He said he wanted to be remembered, but remembered for this. Worked in Nav probably on and off for about 5 years as a brickie. You wouldn't pick it, but that's him.
Mate, and when you saw this photo, is this the first photo you saw?
That's the
night?
first, the first one, the first close-up that I saw yesterday. And straight away could tell it was him.
And mate, what did you think?
Obviously in shock. Disbelief. Like, sort of a pretty quiet bloke, kept to himself, fairly polite, respectful, had his views but never pushed anything on anyone.
So when you say views, I mean, you'll be talking on site and like, the subject would come up and he would say what? In general.
Isn't it weird how he's just like holding the camera? It's like, don't talk to me. Look at the face. Look at the face kind of thing. It's a bit strange. I've been blasting comment sections all morning about Americans making it about the Jews and the Muslims. Yeah, we'll keep blasting. Keep doing it. Where should the conversation really be going? Just continuously holding the picture up, brah. Come on, mate. I know. What's going on? Jags in the house, comrades. How are we? Mike Burgess should be sacked between the caravan hoax and now this. Will he have any accountability? Yeah, interesting. Actually, I think we're going to see something from him later, or maybe his comments on stuff. I'm not sure. We're just having a look, Jag, at this person is called a Bricky, and he used to work with the shooter that has survived, the young dude. They worked together for a number of years as bricklayers in construction. And so we just want to, I'm just interested to know what people actually have to say about this person, if there's any insights from that. And I'm sorry, I'm speaking about obviously the Bondi mass shooting that happened like a day and a half ago now. Um, and so, yeah, we're going to spend a bit of time today kind of unpacking that one. The shooter's mum said he was a good boy. I wonder what it takes for her to think that he's a naughty boy, question mark. Makes me feel like the reporter is just trying to force an emotional response from the bald bloke. Yeah, but like, come on, man. This guy is, look at him. He's a wall. Nothing's getting past him. Eh? No emotions there. Hasn't even raised his voice slightly. I caught up on the VOD last night. Okay. Was it a concert during the stream? All right. Another concert. How many is that this year? There's a tally we should all be paying attention to. I hope it was a good concert. I saw the stuff that you dropped in Discord as well, by the way. That's interesting. We'll get into that at some point.
Sort of had his, I don't really.
Yeah, I mean, but did he speak about religion at all?
Sometimes, but yeah, it wasn't. He wasn't somebody to force things down your throat, but yeah, like his background's Indian and Italian. Like I think he's, yeah. So
there you go. Hey, would you have picked that? Would you have anyone picked that? I remember talking to someone yesterday. Like, don't fucking judge. Don't try and understand. Don't pick what his nationality is just yet. You know, things will come out in the wash. This guy reckons he's a mix between Indian and Italian. Eh? How's that for a culture war?
Yeah, his mum's Italian, right?
Yeah, his mum's Italian. Yeah.
Dad's Indian. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, mate, I mean, of all the people to
Australian metal scenes pop off, eh? I don't know. Like, to be honest, when I was kind of in that scene, in my younger days, it wasn't that fantastic actually. But like the venues were shutting down at that point, so it probably would have been much better before that. But yeah, a lot of the venues were shutting down. The key ones anyway. You could go to like little ones, really local events, but yeah. It's hard to get acts out this way though, as well, like big ones, right? It's really hard to draw people to this part of the world. You would know, Voltateur. Remember that time the atheist blew up while screaming about his beliefs? Rays, I don't, and Christians aren't that much better. Interesting point.
You wouldn't expect it. One thing that we used to talk about was he was licensed for firearms.
yeah.
So I think that is one of the things that sort of needs to be looked into. People like him just shouldn't be allowed firearms. They need to be doing more background checks, be more diligent in the processes. So
Because that vision when he's up there taking aim, I mean, it looked like he could handle a gun.
yeah, well he had. Like we used to talk about going shooting down at Crookwell, and he'd say he actually said to me once, I said, we should go for a shot down there one day. And he goes, I don't know if that'd be good for you. And I thought, okay, that's a bit weird, but yeah, he was a bit of a weird cat, but yeah, you didn't think he'd have that in him.
He's a bit of a weird cat. There it is. Contextual, we should approach this with this in mind. What if this happened in Cabra for Lunar New Year? That's Cabramatta, if people are wondering. That's a place that's full of, predominantly Vietnamese. What if it happened in Lakemba, Eid? Very, again, Middle Eastern area. What if it's happened in Cars Park for the Epiphany Festival? Dilwali in Harris Park? Any discourse should be appropriate if this happened at any of these events. Fair enough. Dilemmas, it was just underground around 2012, 2017. I was gigging. After that, all the clubs shut down. My favorite Aussie band is Hiatus Coyote, kind of a jazz, funk, neo soul. Firearms branch is too busy cracking down on right-wing gun owners. Hey, all right.
And on site, you were laying bricks together, or
Yeah.
right. So you just chatting, shooting the breeze, and
Yeah,
yeah,
not much else to do besides talk a little bit of smack. But yeah, you just you'd never pick it.
And when did he leave work?
About a month ago.
Okay.
So I don't work for that company anymore.
Right.
But I was talking to one of the boys yesterday, and they said he left a month ago. Said that he'd injured his hand and was going to come back next year. And yeah, one of the things that the last things that he said to one of the boys was he wanted to be remembered. So I think it's a pretty horrible thing to be remembered about. But
That's weird.
Mm.
That's weird. And I heard his parents split up, and
Yeah.
and him and his dad did what?
Yeah, I think his parents split up. Not exactly sure when, but I know he went with his old man. But yeah, I know it's horrible for his mum. I think he's got a brother and sister and that, because it's horrible for everyone involved. But yeah, it's just gonna paint obviously bad reflection on them. Just it's no good. It just it made you feel a bit sick. Like spent so much time with someone, like for them to be a monster like that. Doesn't matter what race, religion, anyone, like shouldn't be happening here. No matter what your views are, you're allowed to have strong views, but to go and do that, like it's just wrong. It's putrid. So
Yeah. And so he injured his hand, left work, and said, "I want to be remembered." That's nuts. And watching that vision play out last night, I take it you were glued to the TV last night.
Yeah, I think everyone was. Yeah, I don't think because obviously it comes through social media first, and we're waiting for it just to come on the news. But yeah, I think everyone across Australia was, even around the world. So. Yeah.
Did you recognise the other guy?
No.
Hadn't seen him on site at all.
No, I don't think he was a tradie.
Yeah.
Didn't look like one, but yeah.
Well, mate, people want answers, particularly the families. So I think your insight into who this bloke is would be appreciated, my man. I reckon, just for the family's sake,
Yeah.
Because they'll just be going,
That's so quiet.
who the hell would do such a thing, And
I think
like
that I don't know who looks into it, whether it's ASIO or if they have special detectives or whatever. But there's obviously a bit of planning going into it. Like I don't know if coppers need to be more diligent with what they're doing, and I don't know. When you go to get a gun, get a PTA, like there should be more questions asked or whatever. Like,
or regular checks.
Like I know they do regular checks. It's pretty hard to get a gun license in Australia and whatnot, but I just think that,
Did the other fellas on site, say that that it was obvious that he had turned to Islam? Did they mention about,
he was. I know that obviously, I think being Italian, I think he was born Christian, and then I think his old man turned. But I don't think that's the issue. I think it more just comes down to the individual. Like we can't just paint every Islamic person with the same brush. You know what I mean? Because it's not an Islamic issue. It's just he's just a sick individual.
A bit more of an insight is,
So according to this dude here, they're converts. Or he was a convert anyway. So he said there that he was born Christian, converted later when his father did. Interesting. It's not the typical story that you get out of this stuff. I always liked Sunk, Lotto, Butterfly Effect, Super Heist, etc. The golden age of alt metal in Oz. Gun violence is not left or right. A bullet doesn't discriminate. This was an act of a sick and evil pair. Well, I think our mate over here, the Bricky, agrees with you there. Said it's not really about anything else. It's just sick. Watch one nation surge now. Also, we don't have an official statement about their motives. Leave the culture wars at the hospital door. Maybe if ASIO spent less time telling us everything is China and Iran, they could direct their resources to stop this thing from happening locally. Well, look, this is when you have the big American kind of machine there directing Five Eyes and like coming out with national strategies as we read last week. You know, the focus is drawing all of Australia's attention, all of the resources in the region into, you know, combating the spread of China, and containing them. So, you know, you may be right there that there might be, look, the focus is China now. So every other type of national security interest needs to kind of takes a back door, and like less resources are dedicated to local issues than they are to, you know, helping Trump and the boys out with their Indo-Pacific relations.
I'll let you go in a sec, but a bit more of an insight into, you know, time on the job with, you know, Veed. So, you know, you guys would start early. And
Yeah,
was he always on time?
mate. He's a good worker, like hard worker. The thing was, he was very disciplined as well. Like, so that's what kind of like makes it a
Just here to watch a trash fire. Stop. How you going?
bit more shocking, because he just rock up, do his work, go home. Like, but he didn't. I don't think he had many friends. Like, no, he did a bit of boxing outside of work just to keep fit. But yeah, he's just a weird sort of individual. But you'd never pick that. Like, I never picked that
Yeah.
was capable of something like that.
Interesting. There it is. Convert, potentially, according to his mate here. Very interesting. The bloke that was directing people to go away, he was targeting Jews, felt similar to the Christchurch shooting, but in the opposite way. That shooter was targeting Muslims. That's interesting. Are you talking about like how they're like people on one side of the bridge, they're telling them to get out of the way, like they're motioning for people to get out of the way, and then like turning the opposite direction and shooting people? I'm good. How are you? Finally packing over here. LOL. I don't understand the reference, so please tell me about what the packing is in relation to. All right, so I see how it is you're comfortable taking my money now, not even acknowledging a resub. Oh, sorry. I don't see. That's the problem. Now I've consolidated everything into this chat. I don't even see the actual subs, like the conversation going on the platforms anymore. Did you do something over here? Did you? Oh, you did. Oh, there you are for 5 months. Thank you, sir. Hey, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Sorry, I don't see the chat and that type of notification anymore. See, this is why you need alerts. Look, I've got a lot of things to work on. I swear I'm working. Oh, I'm finally packing for my trip. LOL, leaving tomorrow. Okay, radio. To the Philippines, right? Hey, gonna have some good food, I'm hoping. Thank you, Indoctrinathan. I really appreciate it. Goes a long way. It really does. It helps a lot. So thank you. I appreciate it. And sorry I don't have my alerts up and running. But yeah, thank you. Go to a cowboy shooting day and tell me the blokes and gals there ain't the most friendly, down-to-earth Aussies you've ever spoken to. No, I haven't been, but I'll take your word for it. All right, so here's some more information on the shooter, shall we? The theories are coming out now. And as you may or may not be aware, I'm pretty sure you would, but there was a lot of talk yesterday about kind of emerging that the shooters were associated with ISIS somehow. Not really sure exactly how that connection came about straight away, but there was speculation yesterday that they had an ISIS flag in their car, and so they found the shooter's car and they found the improvised explosive device, and Yes, that's where they found the flag, and so everyone was like, "Oh, they're ISIS, etc., etc." And so now the investigation is being going on a little bit further. People are doing their own searching into this, and we're going to start to get some type of understanding how they're associated with that. They found the flag in the boot. There it is. Yep, a month free from work, escaping the clutches of capital. Good, good. I'm glad for you. Escape away, escape away. And I hope you have a good relaxing time. It is that time of the year.
As authorities investigate the motives behind.
Whoa. I didn't even know I changed the speed on this one. Damn. All right, let's have a look.
Sunday's mass shooting here.
Yeah, is the flag confirmed? I have no idea. That's what I'm saying. Like, I've heard people say this. Did the authorities say that? Like, I can't remember yesterday in the press release, when we were watching the Prime Minister, the Premier of New South Wales, the Police Commissioner. I can't remember them saying that. They were talking about what they found in the car in terms of the explosive. I can't remember them saying that though. ISIS flag and explosives, yes. The guns are the problem. Man, you're really ramming home this gun thing. Far out.
Bondi Beach. Details are emerging about the younger of the two gunmen who was investigated by Australia's domestic intelligence agency, ASIO, for his ties to an Islamic State terrorism cell. Our reporter Sean Rubenstein Dunlop joins us now with more. Sean, welcome to News Breakfast and thanks for your time this morning. What have you discovered about Naveed Akram's links to the Islamic State group and Australia's jihadist network?
Well, we've discovered that Naveed Akram, the 24-year-old gunman who survived the shooting and is under police guard in a coma in hospital, had strong links to a network of Islamic State members and supporters in Sydney. We know that ASIO investigated Naveed Akram back in 2019. He came to their attention because of his connections to an Islamic State terrorism cell. Police raided members of that cell back in July 2019, more than 6 years ago. And as a result of those investigations, started looking at him because of his associations with some Islamic State terrorists. We can also reveal that...
So what was it in June 2019, they said? Was that it? There was raids on people associated with in Sydney, I think he said. Let's have a look here, shall we? Let's start a new one. Can you explain the June 2019 raids? On potential ISIS-related groups and individuals in Sydney, Australia. I wonder if we can find anything. Oh, it's got something. Okay, radio. Yes, in early July 2019, Australia counter-terrorism authorities carried out a series of coordinated raids in Sydney targeting individuals suspected of links to ISIS, Islamic State, and potential extremist plot. Here's a brief overview. 2nd of July 2019, the Australian Federal Police and New South Wales Joint Counter-Terrorism Team executed search warrants at 6 properties across Western and Southwestern Sydney. Fucking Western Sydney, there it is again. The raids were part of the operation to disrupt an alleged Islamic State-inspired plot to carry out attacks in Sydney. This is from 7 News, one of the sources. Tasnim News, who was involved. 3 men around 20, 23, 30 were arrested during the raids. The 20-year-old and 23-year-old were expected to face charges relating to membership of a terrorist organization and planning or preventing planning or preparing for a terrorist attack. That's from SBS Australia. The 30-year-old was charged with obtaining financial benefit by deception, a fraud offence was granted bail. He was not charged with terrorism offences at the time. SBS Australia again. Alleged plot details. Authorities allege the suspects were planning attacks on public and strategic targets in Sydney, including police stations, defence establishments, embassies, courts, councils, churches. That's from 7 News, this source. Though the planning was described as being in the early stages, no immediate threat to the general public reported. Locations. Properties were raided in Greenacre, Chester Hill, Canada Bay, Green Valley, Ingleburn, Toongabbie. Fuck, it's a bit all over the place, but fair enough. Like, this is a very expansive part here, like Toongabbie to Canada Bay. These are all like, they're not like within 5 minutes from each other. Some of these places are like half an hour away. But like, whatever, it's all Western Sydney, who cares, right? Evil people from Western Sydney, they're the worst. Context. Australian authorities have periodically thwarted Islamic extremist plots and made arrests under terrorism laws since the rise of ISIS abroad and its online inspired recruits. The 2019 Sydney raids were among several operations to disrupt potential threats domestically. So he was caught up in this somehow. Interesting.
Back in July 2019, more than 6 years ago. And as a result of those investigations, started looking at him because of his associations with some Islamic State terrorists. We can also reveal that counter-terrorism officials, speaking on condition of anonymity, have told us that Naveed Akram was a follower and associate of a notorious Sydney cleric called Wissam Haddad. We identified him in a Four Corners investigation.
What was it? Wissam Haddad? Does anyone know anything about I'm going to say Wissam Haddad. Wissam. WSSAM. Let's have a look. This guy. Anyone know this guy? No. All right, let's see if there's a Wikipedia. There's no Wikipedia on this guy? Get fucked. Wow. Does he even exist? Sydney Muslim, like, this is 6 months old. Support the Guardian. Fuck off. Sydney Muslim cleric tells court Jewish people can't be offended by calling him... can't be offended by him calling them vile as lectures were private. A Sydney Muslim cleric being sued for alleged racial discrimination has told the federal court no Jewish person could be offended as a series of lectures in which he described Jewish people in the 7th century as mischievous, treacherous, and vile because the lectures were delivered to a private Muslim audience. Interesting. Okay. So he was associated with him? Something, maybe. What's this? Guns to kill people? Nah. People kill people with guns. The government won't say it, just like Abba hasn't said it was Islamic fundamental terrorists. Not once. Guns don't kill people. Got it. Sorry. I'm worked up seeing the response to be gun reform and not actual solutions to the problem. At least blame the firearms branches or ASIO a little bit. The amount of people saying that we need to tighten laws because there is no reason to own these types of weapons and all recreational shooters should have their hobby taken away. Just ignore all the disabled shooters who can't do other hobbies. Ignore the veterans who use shooting to combat sports to help their PTSD. The problem today is that people are conspiratorial and try to link things together with no hard evidence, sometimes creating large leaps in logical thought. That's how misinformation happens. I don't know. 2019, he would have been like 17 or 18. Yeah, that's a fair point, right? Yeah. Because he's what, 24 now? Would have been like 18 years old. Yeah. Razor, yo, what's up? How you going? Welcome to the stream. We're just going through theories on the Bondi shooting that happened a day and a half ago. Well, this doesn't solve anything since everyone only reads news that may be distorted. We don't know the whole truth, do we? No, it really don't know much at all, to be honest. And they won't really answer questions, as we've seen. Exactly, well, like blaming guns and not the people committing the crimes, just like the machete ban that did nothing to stop crime, the crime wave happening. Who the fuck is trying to pink wash anti-gun control? All right, let's do this.
Earlier this year as a spiritual leader of Australia's pro-Islamic State network. Wissam Haddad has been on ASIO's radar for most of his adult life, for decades now, and he sits at the network, he sits at the centre rather of a network of Australian terrorists and foreign jihadi leaders. We know that Naveed Akram was a worshipper at Wissam Haddad's controversial and radical Sydney Prayer Centre, Al Medina Dawah Centre in Bankstown. We've been told by our...
Does anyone know how to spell that? I'm very good at it with mine.
At Wissam Haddad's controversial and radical Sydney Prayer Centre, Al Medina Dawah Centre.
Al Medina Dawah Centre. See if we can find that. Al Medina Dawah Centre. Al Medina Dawah Centre. There it is. Bankstown, Al Medina Dawah Centre. Is this the guy as well? Looks like. Interesting. Just like a big house. Right. Okay. In Bankstown, eh? Fucking Bankstown. Don't know anyone that lives in the Bankstown area. Once again, people's rights are getting stomped on because people who believe in magical Skyman doesn't like the other imaginary Skyman and need to duke it out. Keep your shitty blood feuds in the country. Don't bring it here, Razor. It's easy to say that the attack is a Muslim or any other group because we have not actually verified this. How can they say they are Muslims just because they said so? I don't know, but apparently they've, according to this investigation here, this person, Naveed, was on a list of potential terrorists who are associated with ISIS or the Islamic State group. We listened to somebody else who used to work with them, saying that they converted recently, and the father had converted recently as well, and so they only became Muslim. I guess you would say later in life, if that's a thing. Late in life Muslims. Dr. Nathan, think of the poor disabled veterans who were disabled by weapons, who can't have them comfort them at night. Aussie's finally going to get their gun rights back now. I don't think that's the conclusion of this. I think the at the federal level they've already met. Politicians have already met to talk about actually regulating guns even more as a result of this, to be honest. My guess is that they would prefer 30 years between mass shootings instead of 300 a year. It's a pretty fucking safe guess, eh? Yeah, what was the count last I heard? It was like 360 something, I thought they were up to. But yeah. Anyway, let's hear this guy out before we continue with our theories. The theories are going off today, actually. I didn't think it was going to be one of those streams. The theories are coming from the chat today.
Centre in Bankstown. We've been told by our sources that Naveed Akram was also active in Wissam Haddad's street preaching organisation, Dawa van. Now, we revealed in our ABC investigation this year that Dawa van was receiving government tax concessions while radicalising young Australians on the streets of Sydney, and it had its charity status revoked because of that. So investigators are looking closely at Naveed Akram's ties now, and Wissam Haddad himself, through a lawyer, says he vehemently denies any knowledge of or connection to these shootings.
Interesting. Interesting. So he's associated with someone who's like top of the watch list. What was it? Preachers at a radical, what? Preachers radical lectures? Yeah, top of the list, but has disassociated himself with the event. Not taking any claims there. Interesting. When seconds matter, cops are hiding behind cars watching you die. They will limit gun numbers per owner and increase checks and license denials, but they can't really limit too much more unless they copy the WA model, which they probably will. How do people get on a list? And if they make changes for police to take more action towards people on these lists, at what point are we thought policing people? Full transparency is needed. Well, it's interesting. It is. It's a really fine line, isn't it? Especially as this guy just described the Wissam guy. What's his name? Wissam Haddad. Wissam Haddad explained to him to be a terrorist. He said he is a terrorist. And it's like, well, are you on a list as a potential terrorist, or are you actually a terrorist? Like, you know, I don't have enough of an understanding of how all of that works. ACAB, hey, ACAB, all the way. Razor, of course, I oppose this crime in every way. It is inhumane in every sense of the word. Dilemmas, I'd say that if you are involved in a prescribed terrorist organization like ISIS, ASIO might want to take a closer look. The cop station is 4-minute walk from the shooting site. They were shooting for 10 minutes. Interesting. You know, like, think about it though. Like, if you're a cop, like, would you just run into kind of a scene like that? Like, soldiers, I don't know, like, who has to be prepared to know what level to take that stuff on at the end of the day? You know, just another wage laborer. Like, do you really want to die for work? It's an interesting dilemma, actually, for you. Dilemmas. Like, if you hear about something as a copper, would you put your life on the line straight away? Would people hold it against you if you didn't? All very difficult questions. All right, so that's it. So like I said, there's theories coming out. We're going to see more and more of these theories as time goes on about the shooter and what they were up to. That's why it was interesting to see what his mate from work had to say about him. Yes, that's the job, protecting the public. Come on. You honestly believe that all the people that have joined the police force are the type that are going to, throw themselves in front of bullets to protect the public? Like, there's a lot of soldiers that don't even do that sort of stuff. You know, and they're trained under fire. I don't know, man. Look, it just seems way too, like, idealistic for me to think that there's all these coppers out there that are just like, yes, I will die for the people of this country kind of thing. That's why they join the police force. Unless you want to allow people to defend themselves, then cops should be at the front, should be front and center. Fair enough. Fair enough. Got it. But I wouldn't die for my old job. I'll tell you that much for free. Definitely when I died for my job. All right. Let's have a look. Where was the... Okay, here we go. Let's get this guy. Let's have a look at this one. Theories on the shooter. And then we're going to get, like, conspiratorial, if that makes sense.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage from Bondi. Well, new details this morning are emerging about the terror attack. ASIO previously investigating a link between one of the alleged gunmen and an Islamic State terrorism cell.
For more, we are joined now by security expert Tony Lochran. Tony, thanks so much for joining us today. I think everyone was very alarmed when we learned that this guy was on ASIO's radar and yet nothing was done about it. I mean, why was that the case?
It's quite incredible, actually, because when you look at the interview that the head of ASIO did yesterday, it was almost like, we know this guy. OK, we actually found out that he possibly could have played on the fringes, OK, but we weren't really concerned. So he showed this particular kind of position that they weren't really bothered about it too much or whatever. Let's hose it down.
Just for context, how many people would be like that on the fringes, as you say, in Australia?
In Australia, it's very difficult to quantify, to be honest with you, because you've got a lot of the rise in right faction right now, OK, and it's actually integrated into some of the actual terror groups. And it's very, very difficult to quantify it, and I think that's one of the reasons why we've reached out to America to find out just exactly what is going on with the overall.
Also, these two.
They cut him off. Why the fuck do they do that? How many fucking interviews have we seen where they cut people off? So they don't have an understanding. Well, he won't say it. It seemed more like he won't say it, but he said, we don't know how many people are on the fringes of a terrorist watch list because at the moment we're experiencing a rise in right-wing terrorism or terrorism watch lists, I guess. But in saying that, we have reached out to the Americans to ascertain more information about this something because they fucking cut him off. But like, what do the Americans have about individuals on Australian soil that ASIO doesn't have information on? Think about that. I'll put that one to you. Myth. Police are meant to throw themselves into fire to protect people. Reality. Some middle-aged fruit shop owner. I got this. So good. It's true, right? Apparently he's got one of his family members said that he's an ex-copper. I don't know if anyone else has heard that. But yeah, the guy from the Shire, the Muslim dude from the Shire who threw himself at the gunman, I got it. I'll do it. That's an easy fix. Allow us to carry full self-defense if the police training isn't sufficient to do the main part of the job. All my veteran mates are fuming seeing the cops hide behind cover while a mad lad, Ahmed, has to be the one to try and do something. Yeah.
Who went to the Philippines.
Yes.
And we know there's some hardline to
Reached out to America to find out just exactly what is going on with the overall.
Also, these two went to the Philippines.
Yes.
And we know there's some hardline terrorism cells over there and some training. They'll be looking into that aspect of it.
Absolutely. You're looking at the Indonesia, you're looking at the Philippines.
So they went on a holiday to the Philippines, potentially get some training. Is that interesting? I've heard an allegation that the Bondi shooters went to the Philippines and potentially got some type of training there. Can you very briefly describe what this allegation is alluding to? Better keep an eye on trash fire. Ah, that's so good. I didn't even think about that. Oh, wait, trash fire. Can you please explain yourself? We would just like to confirm why you're going to the Philippines again. Oh my God. Yeah, his parents gave an interview and they said that he was a cop in Syria before he came here in 2010 and /11. I think, but don't quote me on the year. Wow, there it is. Okay. Whoa. Calm down, guys. Calm down. Oh my God. Very briefly, the allegation is speculating that the Bondi attacker or attackers have traveled to the Philippines and received militant or weapon-style training there. This alludes to the fact that southern Philippines, what's that, Mindanao, has long had Islamist insurgent groups, some historically linked to ISIS or Al-Qaeda, which fuels online claims that foreign fighters train there. Key point, there is no confirmed evidence publicly released by Australian authorities supporting this claim. Police and security agencies have not verified any overseas militant training, and the allegation largely circulates on social media and fringe commentary. Yeah, but like it does happen, it would seem. There is some type of training that happens in the southern Philippines. Interesting. I'm just going to train for a month or anything. I'm not going to train for a month or anything. I'm just going to see my family. I'm going to eat lots of food. Leave me alone. As society becomes more individualistic and inequality runs rampant, what does it mean to protect society? Why give your life for society when it's just sees you as a number? This is my age-old discussion is they are just another member. Like coppers are just another wage worker. Now people call them class traders, but they are working class people for the most part. And you know, like, does it really? Like, I know they do heroic acts and extraordinary things and et cetera, but like, you know, would the average copper walk into a line of fire? Would they risk their lives to save multiple people, bring down a terrorist, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Like, you know, is that really the mindset? I don't get paid for this shit, man. Mindanao. Thank you. Thank you very much. Mindanao.
Look at all different places. Absolutely.
Over there and some training. They'll be looking into that aspect of it.
Absolutely. You're looking at Indonesia, you're looking at the Philippines, look at all different places really where some of the remnants from Mujahideen Bangladesh, Jamaat Islamic Mujahideen, and also some of the other groups as well have actually kind of stayed there within these communities and been able to hide there, ready to be activated, you know, back on any mainland.
Is there any possibility? I mean, I know that to some extent authorities are relieved that it's contained to these two people at this point.
Yeah.
But
it's like, it's seriously like we're watching GTA. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
the connections, if they're established overseas, would be the dawn of a new era for our services who are trying to prevent this stuff from happening and make it even more tricky.
Look, the problem is, okay, we were the land of milk and honey.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened for many, many years, and I'm not shocked that this has happened. I'm sorry to say this. It's been coming, and what's happened is the actual kind of Islamic State itself has grown. It's grown significantly since COVID. COVID went quiet, everything went dead, okay, but they continue to actually...
I thought it was Trump who claimed that he had defeated ISIS. That's why it went fucking quiet. Because you have Trump out there making all these bold claims as he usually does. I've solved 8 conflicts. I've brought peace to the world, and I have destroyed ISIS. I did it in 3 months. They said it couldn't be done. They said it would take years. I did it in 3 months. Yeah, Carl has a skip dialogue button hardwired into his brain. Oh my god. You can't say cops shouldn't be expected to protect the public when it counts the most, but then I say I can't have the tools to defend myself. Which is it? Look, I'm not saying that that isn't potentially their job, but like, why the fuck would they? Like, honestly, it is just a job at the end of the day. Now, whether that justifies then, because I don't think that the average cop would want to sacrifice their life, let alone experiencing such a shocking, confronting, and terrifying situation like that. You know, whether that justifies everybody should just be, you know, fucking carrying a weapon on them just in case they come across a terrorist. I'm sorry, I don't know if those two things meet for me. Now we've had an attack in Bondi of this nature that everyone needs to be strapped. Like, I don't know, man. I'm sorry. But like, if you think that, like, I get it. I understand your opinion, or I've heard you voice your opinion. I'm trying to understand it. You think that people should be able to defend themselves. Fine. If cops aren't going to do it, they should be able to defend themselves. I hear you. I hear you. It's not the Southern Muslims' fault. The Catholic Spanish treated them so shit and radicalized them. Eh? Yeah, I know. Catholics. They're the real problem. There you go. Puzzle piece, take that. I would expect them to resist. Yes, yeah, fair enough. As we see in America, the more guns allowed on the street, the risk of those guns being used dramatically increases. Gun tragedies are almost a daily thing in the US. We don't want anything like that. Well, what do you think as a Kiwi? Like, you guys have a lot more guns, I guess, than Australians do. They seem to be more prolific. I know that they've tightened things down more recently or since Christchurch, but like, do you have any opinions on that? The sense of community is disappearing. Cops working in places they have no emotional attachment to just means they aren't as emotionally invested. Yeah, they're completely alienated, right? Their job is to protect capital under the guise of public safety. That's not a bad point, and that's why they're so alienated, as you're talking about, Volta, from like communities. Before there used to be a direct relation, right? And now they are literally just foot soldiers. You see them deployed and moved around. Like, they have no connection to a lot of the communities that they're serving when they're just like picked up in the service of capital, right? They protect private property. It's a good thing. That's something that needs to be maintained when we're talking about cops and authorities and like people like this. Like, their job is to service capital at the end of the day. And if capital decides, like I was speculating on before, if capital has decided, being imperial capital under the guise on the protection of the US, and their policy at the moment is turning to the Indo-Pacific, and all the operations of Five Eyes is to be turned towards maintaining supremacy over the Western Pacific to hold out the Chinese, then this stuff will go. And so that's service to capital, because what did the US national security strategy say? It was, in order to protect America's economy, they need to make sure the Indo-Pacific is free from what? Free from China. And so, like, if capital wants to protect the American economy, then it's going to use resources in some fucking shitty outpost like Australia. It's going to use our resources to secure the American economy in China, in the Indo-Pacific region, to clamp down on China. Does it care about Australians and their public safety? It would seem potentially not. That's a good reminder. I have to get that fucking tattooed somewhere. I'm not going to tattoo a cab to myself. I'm going to be tattooing, the job of the cops is to protect capital first and foremost. Everything else is secondary to that, if that. Trump hasn't solved anything. He's just adding to the problems. He didn't resolve the Ukraine-Russia war as he promised. He didn't address the Epstein case as he promised. And there are many other things left under-resolved during his presidency. Fair enough. But he did say that he defeated ISIS. Maybe they were just like what they've done with, the Israel-Palestine conflict. They're just like, yeah, we brought peace. And it's just like, there has been 700 documented violations of the US brokered ceasefire. 700 breaches. 700. That's not a fucking ceasefire anymore. But like, no one talks about it, so everyone thinks it's still a ceasefire. When you have gun laws like US, that will happen. Our gun laws were working till ASIO stopped doing their job because they were focusing on domestic right-wing terrorism. Like, who do you blame there? Is that ASIO's fault, or the fact that there are right-wing extremists that can be considered domestic terrorists? Like, whose fault is that, honestly? Because like, I'm not going as far as to say that these right-wing extremists are domestic terrorists, or they're just classified that way because of some policy change. That's exactly what's happening in the US at the moment. Trump has now decided to classify, Antifa as NEVs, nihilistic violent extremists. And so, like, people can be misclassified. But like, what's the classification doing? Why is that the focus? Or like, are these people actually, extremists, these right-wing persons? What's going on? All cops are bourgeoisie protectors. I can get down with that. I'll get down with that, Jag. Bro, we got so many things to write on shirts, so we can start selling some merch. I'm pro gun control. Why put personal hobbies over the increase of mass violence? It's a pure form of a selfish desire over the safety of society. That's my opinion, LOL. Sorry, you don't have to, sign it off with an LOL. It's a fair opinion. And like, can I just say, like, and potentially even an artificial selfish desire, because a lot of desire in a capitalist setting now is manufactured because you want to push commodities, right? And so like we have all this marketing and all this advertising, all this brainwashing our entire lives. Oh, you want to be a real man, you got to get a gun. And it's just like, oh, okay, I better get a gun then. And like you're told that through various forms, usually through some type of marketing, because they want you to buy their shit. They don't give a fuck if you're a man or not. But I thought they wanted to make me manly. No, they just wanted you to buy something. Sorry. And so like, yeah, if someone has a selfish desire, then do you put that over the safety of society? Like, where did the selfish desire come from? Is that being completely manufactured because somebody wants to push a product? I would say that is a strong factor to be considered. But then again, how these gun controls are regulated is a huge factor in being for and against. Razor, well, aside from causing problems for American people, I don't see that he has solved any real problems for Americans. Americans still have the worst healthcare system. I was going to cover that video in a stream chat on Friday, but it'll probably be too past by then. Also, most don't stick around for my streams anyway. But Evie is a Kiwi, and she did a detailed comparison of gun laws between Oz, NZ, Denmark, and the US. I've seen that chick. She's like blonde, like a blonde Kiwi kind of content creator. I think I've seen her. And why it's not about stopping shooting, but how we respond to tragedy as a society. Stephen Denick V. No. It's also very relevant to the conversation happening. Okay, fair enough. Dilemmas. It is the perpetrators who commit the crimes and the government that refuses to do their main job, which is protect the public. Look up bench rest marksman, and let me know what other hobby he should do. LOL, it's a bad habit I developed from texting as a teenager. Yeah. Well, like sometimes you feel like you have to kind of just like ha ha ha, like I think just in case people take it too seriously. But it's a safe space here. I start and end sentences with LOL, and it's a problem. I have a problem. I recommended her videos to you before. She's funny. Yeah, I think you recommended the Peter Thiel one, or like the one where she's saying like, why are all these fucking billionaires over here building doomsday bunkers? This is my South Island. Get the
kind of regroup and redouble as well. So
the interesting thing about Islamic State is I think we all thought it had kind of disappeared, right? We obviously saw the killing of those American soldiers as well as a civilian in America by Islamic State in Syria just the other day.
Yeah.
So they are having this resurgence. Is that really?
Isn't that interesting? Like, here's one for your conspiracy theories. ISIS is back from the dead. They're responsible for a terrorist attack on Australian soil. Responsible. And they have just popped 3 Americans in Syria. And Syria, like, they've just, recovered. America supports them again. The president who used to be fucking he was a terrorist and listed by the US as a terrorist, a leader of a terrorist organization, leader of Al Qaeda, is now, going to the White House, shaking hands with Donald Trump. And then all of a sudden, now Syria's taken care of. ISIS has come back. And it's killing American soldiers, just as they were starting to reduce their numbers of troops as well. I think they were about to reduce their numbers from 2,000 in Syria or in this base to 1,000. And then the Americans are being killed there. ISIS is back. All of a sudden, ISIS is back on the agenda, baby. Meat's back on the menu, boys. Well, they are the ones putting people in that situation. Why does the public have to carry weapons? It is supposed to be the police who ensure the safety of the city and the people, not the people buying weapons to defend themselves. Again, see, like this whole buying of weapons thing is a weird one for me. Like nationalize it. It's take it off the market, nationalize it, give dilemmas a gun. It's a state-owned weapon, owned by the people. It's not on a market. I would have a very different opinion on that. It really would come down to a safety discussion as opposed to a market factor. And so, like, have a safety discussion, but let's not take away the added pressure of the profit motive on that one. Yeah, look at this. ISIS is back on the menu. What an interesting take that is.
Are we to be concerned about their rise again?
100%.
Oh, yeah.
And, friends of ours and contacts of ours and colleagues from my company anyway, their kind of relatives and other people are involved in kind of looking at disrupting IS cells within the UK.
I would have thought too, given how we can dive into technology these days,
Yeah.
that'll be established pretty quickly, wouldn't it? A link between...
No, not necessarily, because what happens is there's a lot of underground networking going on, and areas where you think at the end of the day, it's like the dark web, effectively, that people actually want to close everything down. But that's not to say at the end of the day that you're going to get some people like this that happened, where families themselves want to actually kind of energize themselves into IS.
Yeah.
And they'll take a particular chance to do anything at all, and that will be kind of flagged.
See, like, how do you do something like that? Like, honestly, like, there's been a lot of talk about, the authorities have, like, failed, like, et cetera, et cetera. Like, everyone's playing the blame game. Like, if you've got a father and son pair who have access to firearms already, and they're just, like, chilling at home talking about this, how the fuck are you gonna find that out? Like, honestly. Like, how do you, like, it's not like they have meetings or something, like, they live together. They could be speaking about it over breakfast every morning. Like, how the fuck are you going to figure that one out? Underground networks controlled by secret agencies like the CIA, perhaps? Yeah, did you see his face? He was like, yeah. Once they've done our work for us, destabilizing regions, eh? Volta, as long as the West continues to fund weapons and kill innocents in the Middle East, the longer we are under threat, seeing family die and suffer over capitalist greed would radicalize anyone. Yes. 100%. Oh my God. What is the use of the police if they can't even protect people? Should we work for them too? They don't just work to give directions. This is their duty. Look, it's a tough conversation. Like, I put it to you. Would you? I don't know what you do for a living, but, like, would you die for your job? I put it to anyone in the chat. Would you die for your job? I know, even if you thought that was a risk. Like, let's just say you worked in a heavy industry, or you work with heavy machinery. Like, it's a risk. You could die, right? Like, you could die in most. Like, you could get electrocuted working in an office. It's a risk. But, like, would you want to die for your job? It's probably fucking not. Fuck no. There it is. There's the anti-capitalist strain in all of us right there. Fuck, I didn't die for this shit. I just wanted to get paid because I had to buy shit to live in this fucking society anyway. I get paid enough for that.
It doesn't matter where it's come from. It's been inspired by something, and that's hard to stop from that point of view, the security point of view.
Yeah, it is, and if we go all the way back to Aleppo, in Syria, and different places like that, most people don't know this, but IS really was born out of Abu Ghraib, the prison, where some of the actual hardline guys turned around and said, had enough, coming out, we want to do something. So the disruption happened, but it's consolidating again, and IS are coming back without a shadow of a doubt.
What is their focus today? Obviously, in this case, the example we're giving now was the Jewish community was the target. Is that going to be Islamic State's target going forward, or is it just across the board terrorism?
Well, the big statement, to be honest with you, is that for many, many years they're looking for a caliphate, and a caliphate is really a complete kind of domination of the actual the Muslim kind of cell itself. So there's a problem there, okay, because it's an ideological problem and it's going to go on.
They were looking at this guy in 2019 for links to people, various people in and around Sydney who are on the radar in a more serious way. The fact that they didn't continue to monitor, is that considered a security miss? Not that I want to, bag our intelligence authorities, and how difficult is it to have constant surveillance on someone if they're not considered that serious risk? Is it at all achievable?
The problem is, okay, and I think no one's going to mind me saying this, but Australia's been under-resourced as far as kind of counter-terrorism is concerned for quite some time, and police in particular. We just don't have the manpower or the...
They're under-resourced. Who would have thought, hey, under this capitalist system, that they go to the extent of not resourcing wage workers and workforces properly? They don't actually have the manpower required for the job. Hey, who would have fucking thought? Hey, after decades of neoliberal policy, they have defunded services, so they are ineffectual. My God, who would have fucking thought? This is the revelation of the day. Hey, me, never. LOL. That's why I moved from the trade. So many oldies have broken bodies. Yeah. Whereas I don't mean that they die willingly, of course. I wouldn't accept someone's death. But if people are the ones dealing with all of this, then we don't need any system. Let's just make it a zoo where only the strongest survive. Ask yourself why you're hearing less about Hamas and more about ISIS now. Israel has never been less popular than right now, to the point where they know that they have to ramp up Islamophobia to regather any support. So time to get the old black flag gang back together. That's a really fucking good point, right? Yeah, PR campaign is not real, not looking that great. Hey, we need to remind the world, hey, that ISIS come back from the dead to start terrorizing hearts and minds again. Also, I think it is either the first, if not the first recorded ISIS attack on Jewish people. Every other time it's been Christian minority groups and fellow Muslims. That's the big one. Fellow Muslims, like, massively. That's what we're learning about in the Nigerian case as well.
The inertia to keep it going. That's the problem. That's where the actual kind of problems exist.
So that leaves us vulnerable to attack.
Right now, absolutely. And I think that that's where all of the actual legislation, all of the actual kind of the manpower and everything else that is being considered.
What do we do now with, given all of that and given what's happened here in the last couple of days? We're heading into the Christmas period. There are very, very big security operations that will be needed for very big events in this country. In terms of Christmas, but also big sporting events.
100%.
So how do we approach that?
The approach really is to look at really what we did many years ago, where the police worked very, very closely with the security community, the security groups that we've actually got out there. And that's sharing of intelligence as well, because that is key. You're looking at individuals who could try and break into certain systems, venues, and so on and so forth.
Well, you got 90,000 who are going to be at Boxing Day in Melbourne, right?
100%.
So these things are incredibly difficult to police. Is in some ways a big event, despite the fact that it's going to be a target. Is it easier to police or more difficult, given that there's going to be long waits to go in and the security can be put in place?
Let's go back a step, Carl. Okay, it's not about the actual policing of the event, it's about surveillance of the event. And that's it. And we need more surveillance. We need a lot more kind of clever people looking at individuals, profiling.
Hey, we need more surveillance. Hey, oh, interesting. There you go. That's a very interesting takeaway from this, especially considering what we have at our disposal now. Fucking Palantir's just like in the corners, like, yes, good, more surveillance. Yes, let the surveillance flow.
Individuals as they're coming through, backpacks, coats, overalls, whatever they've actually got on. That's the kind of thing that we should be looking for.
What questions do you have about these two? We saw that there was an Islamic State flag in one of the cars that was down here yesterday. So what questions would you have?
The questions really is that I looked at the terror cell in Indonesia when the family were actually kind of thrown on motorbikes to actually be suicide bombers. Never seen that before. I want to know just exactly who radicalised who. Okay, was it this way? Was it that way? Okay, because it's quite interesting to figure out just exactly how we can start tackling that for the future.
The scary thing is it was so under the radar.
And
they kept it tight. Yeah. All right, good to talk to you, Tony.
Thanks, Tony.
No problem.
Appreciate your time.
Interesting. Good on you, Tony. Hey. That's why I doubt that they had a hand in it as well, because it is strange that the deceased were Jews and the killers were Muslims. Yes, it might be true, but we know the problems between Israel and Palestine. do you think they manipulated the facts? Sorry, as in like the facts of this particular story? Like who these people are. Well, I think it's interesting that this guy doesn't fit the usual mold as well. His co-worker described him as someone who is of Italian and Indian descent. Um, so like this isn't Israel v Palestine. It's not even Israel v fucking Iran, Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Yemen. Like it's none of those. Like this is very, very different parts of the world here. So it doesn't fit the usual mold, which is interesting. Well, so most people I know don't have a good opinion on the cops. You only see them when they give you a ticket, but when someone is breaking into your property or act of violence, they take their time. Yeah. Yeah, their PR is not great, especially since Israeli leaders are facing the issue of the war crimes they've committed, and they have paid a lot to cover it up in the media. I don't see that they would mind paying to distort the image of Islam as well. Well, it's like it's part of the trope. It's part of like a tactic, which is what Indoctrinathan is talking about. This idea that in order to kind of deflect a negative attention away from what is not rail is up to, and like more to kind of counteract a lot of the bad press they've been getting, the bad PR that they've gotten for like, you know, basically the last 2 years now. They're ramping up this, you know, they're basically reviving an old horror kind of thing. Like if you can turn your mind back to what it was like, you know, in 2019 and stuff like that, with ISIS. Like, you know, the terror was huge. Like people were talking about ISIS nonstop. It was, you know, huge fear mongering stuff. You know, it was a siege mentality, a lot in the Western world about ISIS. You know, they were carrying out attacks here and there and everywhere, and you know, they were a massive threat to civilization. And so like to revive that fear and to like use the energy that provides, and the cover that provides, is definitely a tactic in their arsenal, in their playbook. Sorry, it's definitely a tactic in their playbook to get people to, hey, look over here, ISIS is back, kind of thing. Let's talk about ISIS again and not talk about Israel and Palestine. And so yeah, to drum up some more of that fear does actually help their cause a lot. Yeah, so like, you know, there is definite historical precedent for this type of stuff happening. You know, it's not just crazy conspiratorial stuff to think along these lines. And like, you don't even have to really direct stuff. You can just allow it to happen, you know, walk it up to the door, set the scene for it, and let it kind of unfold. And then just reap the benefits of it. It doesn't have to be like completely, you know, puppet mastered kind of event. It can be something that's set into motion, if you know what I mean. They need justification to continually support is not rail and is not rail financial interests. There it is. All right, so let's have a look at this. I'm not sure if Taygard's here. Taygard was like banging this one yesterday. We got to watch this, And I kept on saying, no, let's watch this tomorrow. So I do apologize, Taygard, if you're not here, but we're going to watch the thing that you suggested that we will watch yesterday. So this is called Australia's History of False Flags and Correction by Netanyahu. So this is in relation specifically to potential false flag events that have happened in Australia in recent history in relation to our boy Netanyahu, who's been continuously calling out Australia for being anti-Semitic, or the Australian government for not doing enough to combat anti-Semitism. And there have been certain events that have happened over the last couple of years, like people, you know, a truck found near a synagogue or a Jewish school or something like that had explosives in it, and you know, potential Iranian terrorist links and all this sort of stuff. There have been these operations that have happened, these events that have happened in Sydney and Melbourne, etc., that were kind of, baseless, or like linked to very shaky ties to certain organizations, but it was always tied to this. We've got to do something about the rise in anti-Semitism. And so this person kind of will break down some of that sort of stuff in the context of the Bondi Beach attack. And like I said, this is something that Tagard really wanted us to watch yesterday. So have a listen. Let's see what we can learn from this. And we'll dissect as we need. Their tech companies have hands in all our social media with surveillance and tampering of algorithms. Most people see these old scaremongering tactics they use to waste our tax dollars on a BS. Personally, I despise IS because as a Saudi, they have harmed my country and attacked it. They have also caused a lot of problems. So I see them as a terrorist group because they are truly disturbed people. And, potentially even unleashed, you could say, by American operations in the area, in the region. And like even people have talked about how, this guy right here, Netanyahu himself, and his his government has helped provide them with material assistance when it's suited them as well. Same with, Hamas. So, terrorists as a concept, not just individual terrorist organizations themselves, but terrorists have been used in recent history, if not well back beyond that, but like more recent history, by governments to, to get some action happening in order to suit their own agendas indirectly. This is not news to anyone, I would say, that's listening to this right now. That governments, deep states, the deep state organizations out there would actually weaponize terrorists and terrorist organizations to serve their own needs. All right. Let's do this.
The news of a shooting at Australia's Bondi Beach in Sydney has shocked the world. We all woke up to this news in the Western world today as we learned that as many as 11 people have been killed in this gruesome attack. The attack coincided with the members of the Jewish communities celebrating their festival. As expected, the usual suspects from the settler colony of Israel to the UK and Australia have been quick to link this attack to those protesting against the Israeli genocide in Gaza.
Yeah. What's your view? Because we've heard from other Jewish
Fucking Sky News, eh? Sky News. Straight off the bat.
people living in Australia this morning, they don't think enough has been done up to now.
My view is really clear. They're very much playing it safe and they pay a lot of lip service. And I've been told that the actual police who are witnessing death threats and chants at, I have to call it what it is, pro-Palestinian rallies, when they hear death to Jews, gas.
What are they fucking called then? I have to call it what it is, pro-Palestinian rallies. What does that mean? Oh my God, she's had some lip service. Hey, yeah, I know. Fucking tell me about it.
It is pro-Palestinian rallies.
What does that mean?
When they hear death to Jews, gas the Jews, and from the river to the sea, which is a clear...
This is just fucking outrageous, can I just say? If you've joined first stream, we've been to fucking pro-Palestinian rallies. I have never heard anyone ever say, what was it? Kill the Jews, gas the Jews? What the fuck is she talking about?
I have to call it what it is, pro-Palestinian rallies. When they hear death to Jews, gas the Jews, and from the river to the sea, which is a clear, direct...
They definitely say from the river to the sea. What is she talking about? That's fucking bad, man.
of kill Jews worldwide. Globalize the Intifada means kill Jews wherever you are.
This is what makes everything suspicious, and I shall attempt to explain how. So much so that war criminal Benjamin Netanyahu was quick to peddle fake news by claiming that the Muslim
You have to say it like war criminal. Like that's how you address Netanyahu from now on. Don't just say his name. Just remind me, please. Every time we say his name, we have to say war criminal Netanyahu. That's how you pay the appropriate respect to the title and to the station. He worked hard to get that. Spandong 19 back again. How you going? Well, police and officials say this stuff is only said at extremist events, but it's chanted at pro-Palestine rallies regularly. I don't know, man. We've been there. We've streamed from there. This is why I like to do these things and stream from these places. It's not what they fucking tell you on the news. Globalize the Intifada does not mean kill the Jews. Yeah, do you remember seeing Zoran Mamdani try to defend him saying globalize the Intifada? It is like, look, come on, guys. Like, I don't think you understand what's going on here. Razor, yes, he is a war criminal and will remain a war criminal. She's talking about the clip from the day after October 7th where people were heard saying the Jews, despite it was found that the audio was from that video was doctored. Well. Same. I'm in WA though. Okay, fair enough. There it is. All right, back to it. Sorry.
Muslim man who risked his life to snatch the gun from one of the shooters was actually a Jew.
Have you seen this? What's this? We have seen evil at its worst. And we have also seen Jewish heroism at its best. Jewish heroism at its best. I saw on the way here a video of a Jew who pounces on one of the murderers. Takes a weapon from him and saves who knows how many lives.
Of course.
Isn't that interesting? Now, let's benefit of the doubt here. Maybe he doesn't have the right intel. But like if you don't have the intel, he's made a sweeping assumption there that it was a Jewish person that has saved countless lives. It's very interesting stuff.
First, terrorist Netanyahu had no option but to later correct himself, admitting that the hero was indeed a Muslim and not a Jew.
And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today. We saw an action of a brave man, turns out a Muslim brave man, and I salute him, that stopped one of these terrorists from killing innocent.
And I salute you. Interesting.
Jews.
Look, any attack targeting innocent civilians is a tragedy. It's wrong. It must be condemned unequivocally. Period. There are no ifs and no buts. You can simply never justify such attacks, whether the victims are Palestinians in Gaza or Jews in Australia. However, I have a problem with those who condemn the Bondi Beach shooting but were either justifying the mass murder of hundreds of thousands of Palestinians or look the other way when Israeli terrorists from the IDF carried out the biggest ever Holocaust in Gaza for generations.
It's an interesting point. Like, how can you resolve some people being like, oh my God, this is atrocious, but at the same time, those people being like, what? Fuck it. Who cares about what's happening in Gaza? And what did he call the IDF? A terrorist organization, I think, who's carried out a Holocaust. How do you, he's right. How do you reconcile that? Like, are you comfortable with them popping Gazans, but you're not comfortable with what you saw on Sunday? How do you recognize that one? Honestly. I've heard so many conflicting reports about his religion. Poor guy hasn't even got out of hospital yet. Interesting. Interesting.
I and many like me have every effing moral right to condemn this attack because we have condemned the mass murder of Palestinians by Israeli terrorists. You don't, because your disgusting habit of cherry picking your victims wouldn't work anymore. Let's now return to the story itself. According to reports and viral videos, at least 2 gunmen carried out a mass shooting at Australia's Bondi Beach while Jews celebrated their festival. The carnage continued for several minutes and was captured on camera as well. One of the shooters was reportedly shot dead by the Australian Federal Police, while the second attacker had been taken into custody. The video of the shooting is quite disturbing, and therefore I have decided not to reproduce it here. You can watch the entire video on our Telegram channel. Details are on the screen. These videos also captured a rare moment of extraordinary courage displayed by a Muslim man who risked his life to snatch the gun from one of the shooters. I mean, this was truly heroic. You really need extraordinary courage to pull off such a heroic act. The man who did this has been identified as 43-year-old Australian Ahmad Al Ahmad, seemingly an Australian Muslim of Arab origin. Just imagine how many more innocent people, Jewish people, could have been killed if this hero hadn't snatched the gun from the shooter. He deserves the highest award for bravery by the Australian government. This also demolishes the smear campaign already unleashed by right-wing thugs and pro-genocide Zionists in Europe and America that blamed Muslims and unchecked immigration for such a crime. War criminal Netanyahu was
pro-genocide Zionists in Europe. It's an interesting fucking call, but it does fuck up the narrative though, doesn't it? Really makes it hard to spin that one. Well, at least they can offer it is the expulsion of these criminals from their country. This won't even make them forget what they did easily, as they have lost so much because of these criminal leaders. Once again, it's all about Jews/Gaza and Muslims, nothing about being Australian. Another fair point on this regard, on this call, like it's really turned into a discussion just about particular groups, as opposed to this being an event that's happened on Australian soil. Interesting.
Was quick to declare that the brave Muslim man who saved so many lives was actually a Jew, as he attributed it to Jewish bravery. Maybe he was reading from a pre-decided script which wasn't matching with the actual development. I genuinely thought that the entire Western media would now leave no stone unturned to prove that the brave Muslim hero was a Jew, just to prove the Israeli masters right. But credit to social media, their nefarious design was busted on this occasion. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese issued a powerful statement condemning this attack.
This afternoon, there has been a devastating terrorist incident at Bondi at the Hanukkah by the Sea celebration. This is a targeted attack on Jewish Australians on the first day of Hanukkah, which should be a day of joy, a celebration of.
We already know they're hyphenated Australians, LOL. That did deserve an LOL, but like it's savagely true though, isn't it? Hyphenated Australians. Interesting. It's an interesting concept, isn't it?
Faith. An act of evil anti-Semitism, terrorism that has struck the heart of our nation. An attack on Jewish Australians is an attack on every Australian, and every Australian tonight will be, like me, devastated on this attack on our way of life. There is no place for this hate, violence, and
it's an interesting point, because like it really is an attack on the Australian way of life in the sense that it happened at a beach, like far out. I can't unless there was a barbecue going on as well, and someone was playing cricket at this event, like it couldn't have been really more Australian or more of an attack of the Australian way of life.
Terrorism in our nation. Let me be clear, we will eradicate it. Amidst this vile act of violence and hate will emerge a moment of national unity, where Australians across the board will embrace their fellow Australians of Jewish faith at this dark moment for our nation.
But this didn't stop many on social media from raising questions on the motive behind today's shooting. One user produced this stunning video using Google trending
here's
data.
the thing. Now, you might have seen this. Sam put something up on Discord. If you haven't been there, let me know if you need the invitation. But in Discord, there's like an image in relation to searches. So like searches of this person's name, Naveed's name, who is the shooter who survived. His like searches on his name started appearing before the event took place. It's suspicious. I was like, where the fuck did you get this from? And then this guy is about to document it for you. So pay attention to this. This is interesting. Everyone is a hyphenated Australian, even white Aboriginal Australians, qualifying what type of Australian you are as an Australian tradition that goes back to the end of the Indigenous ownership era. It'd be nice to hear him say what we all want to hear: no more room for Islam instead of hate. We all know where it comes from. I don't think this guy's... Are you talking about this guy? I don't think he's going to say that. And like, I don't think that's something that we all want to hear. Again, like, what about the hero that saved the day? He was Muslim. So like, you know, I think it really... like he's right in the sense that it puts a real spanner in the works of the whole theory that would have been like, yeah, look, these two men were Islamist extremists, and you know, down with Islam, etc., etc., etc. Like that's all out of the window now, right? Sorry, that's all out the window now because of the hero. He's destroyed the war criminal Netanyahu's pre-recorded script on that one. We need Japan policies. No more Islam. No, I meant Albanese. Oh, not this guy. You mean Albanese. Yeah, right. Fair enough. But yeah, I don't know, man. I don't think that's the answer at all on that one. It doesn't suit the story because the hero was not of that nature. Sorry, was of that nature. Sorry. Doesn't fit the script there, man.
On breaking news, and it blew my mind away. You can watch it for yourself here.
So this is actually insane. The Bondi shooting just happened, and just go to Google Trends and you will see the name Naveed Akram of the shooter with the ID that has been seen at the scene. His name was searched in Israel this morning at 1 a.m. 12 times, and last night at 12 a.m. Another 10 times. Naveed Akram. They had also searched him in Iran, which he's suspected to be from, last night as well. So you see,
what's going on here?
100 plus searches December 14th, but at 9 a.m. Now, this attack didn't happen at 9 a.m., did it? So this is very suspect. Or more than 100 searches for his name. And previous to today, his name was never searched in the past months. This is today in Australia. You can see searches coming up all today. But let's go to the past 7 days. 0, 0, 0 results, 0 results. Oop, 1 result at 5 a.m. today. Guys, what the fuck is going on? False flag attack. Or
Guys,
what do you think? United States. Oop, 2 searches this morning at 7 a.m. and then a spike of searches. Guys, I think you know what this means.
One user asked Twitter AI Grok to see if the time difference between Tel Aviv and Sydney was indeed matching as claimed in this video. Grok agreed. The user then asked Grok further.
Hey, thank God for LLMs. Then people don't have to figure out time differences on their own. I'm guilty of that. Like, tell me the time, please. I reckon if Ahmed was Bazar, I don't know what Bazar is. Bazar? He would have gotten as much press internet. Oh, in Bazar, as in like Barry or something like that, was Bazar. But we can still give him an Aussie style nickname. You can call him Akka if you want. And hey, the hero can be Muslim. That's cool. Not saying that they're all bad, but the only cult on the planet that causes more terror than any other religion times 100 needs banning and screening for its violent death cult. Now, look, I don't know when you tuned in here, but there is a lot to say about the fact that terrorists and terrorist organizations around the world, especially in more modern history, have been kind of completely orchestrated by deep state organizations of multiple countries and multiple societies around the world from the Cold War on, in order to run proxy wars or fight proxy battles at least and destabilize areas, so foreign powers could control them. So like I don't know if it's inherent to a religion specifically, or it's inherent from interference from the outside. I think there's a lot to say for artificially creating terror organizations to feed multiple agendas at once. So like, you know, I think there's way more to the story than that. Just saying. Just saying. The video sounds doctored. What, the one of that guy who's searching and stuff like that? Kind of funny. All this makes me less and less accepting and tolerant of ethnocentrism and nationalism. I agree on the hyphenation comment. I'll call him Akka out of respect and pride for the Aussie spirit he showed. Christianity takes the cake for violent death cults. KK Online, how you going? Welcome. Jonathan Swift, yes. Yeah, interesting. Well, like, you know, regardless, let's just say it is legitimate what he's done when he's checked out those searches. You can check it yourself. Very interesting stuff. Like, where's that coming from? Ignoring decades of wars in the Middle East caused by Christian nations manipulating countries and direct attacking, causing death tolls higher than any Muslim country. Yeah, since the Bush admin especially, but unfortunately the stats go back further than that and support violence amongst Muslims comparatively being way higher than any other globally. Religions are all pretty fucked when taken to their extremes. That's a fair fucking point, hey? It's a fair point. All right, back
to be specific, as he wrote this, and I quote, "Damn, so if people search the name of the shooter at 9 a.m. in Tel Aviv, what time was it in Sydney, Australia? How could have searched the shooter's name before it happened?" End quote. Grok replied, and I quote, "9 a.m. in Tel Aviv is 6 p.m. in Sydney, about 47 minutes before the Bondi Beach shooting at 6:47 p.m. local time." Then it went on to explain, "No confirmed reports of prior searches for shooter Naveed Akram in Tel Aviv. If true, it could be a data glitch, leak, or coincidence. Claims like this often stem from unverified trends." End quote. Australia has had a history of false flags when it comes to attacks on the Jewish community or its interests. Remember this story from March this year? We had woken up to a news claiming an attempt to blow up a synagogue using a high amount of explosives. As it turned out, the Australian Federal Police discovered that
this is what I think Indoctrination mentioned this one before, I believe. And this wasn't what it seemed to be at the time, I think.
Of explosives. As it turned out, the Australian Federal Police discovered that this was a false flag and people sitting outside Australia had hired local criminals for this purpose. Thank God police had busted the gang even before they could carry out this attack. On another occasion, last year, a gunman had killed...
That is weird though, isn't it? That they figured out that it was someone had engaged a criminal organization to do this. What's going on there, eh?
People at Sydney Mall. A serial fake news peddler from UK's Channel 4 program Countdown, Rachel Riley, had led the pack in blaming Muslims for this attack. This is what she had tweeted, and I quote, "For 6 months now, people have been out on our streets proudly calling for Intifada revolution," whatever it means.
Yeah, what is that?
"If you want to know what globalized the Intifada looks like, see the Sydney Mall." End quote. Clearly, the attempt was to delegitimize the protest against the Israeli genocide in Gaza. I'm not surprised that same attempts are being made even today after today's attacks. As for Riley, her post had earned her global condemnation and shame, particularly after police in Sydney named the attacker as Joel Gauchi, a 40-year-old man from Queensland, and said they did not believe it to be terror-related. This Riley woman had to issue a public apology and delete her tweet. As expected, Channel 4 refused to take her off from its show. Such a punishment only applies to Muslims, Arabs, or people of color. That's the new definition of Western civilization and the justice system. Then in January this year, the Australian police confirmed that they were investigating whether overseas actors or individuals were paying local criminals to carry out anti-Semitic crimes in the country. Don't take my word for it. This is a report from the BBC, a well-known pro-Israeli UK media outlet. In October this year, an Australian parliamentary panel, yes, Australian parliamentary group, was told that New South Wales police had wrongly categorized significant number of attacks as anti-Semitic. This was because they also included anti-Palestinian graffiti and verbal abuse of pro-Palestine protesters as anti-Semitic, giving a false sense of rise in...
Is that legitimate? Do you reckon that's true? So, like, as part of their, hey, let's get some stats on anti-Semitism, they also pulled up in those stats as well people that were actually pro-Palestinian rallies and all that sort of stuff, and they were throwing that in as extra fodder to the count of anti-Semitic behavior. If true, that is fucking ridiculous, isn't it? Isn't that fucking ridiculous? Seriously. How can you trust any of this information?
Hate against the Jewish community. In fact, Netanyahu kind of admitted today to playing his part in this dirty game when he said this.
On August 17th, about 4 months ago, I sent Prime Minister Albanese of Australia a letter in which I gave him warning that the Australian government's policy was promoting and encouraging anti-Semitism in Australia. I wrote, "Your call for a Palestinian state pours fuel on the anti-Semitic fire. It rewards Hamas terrorism. It emboldens those who menace Australian Jews and encourages the Jew hatred now stalking your streets. Anti-Semitism is a cancer. It spreads when leaders stay silent. It retreats when leaders act. I call upon you to replace weakness with action, appeasement with resolve. Instead, Prime Minister, you replaced weakness with weakness and appeasement with more appeasement. Your government did nothing to stop the spread of anti-Semitism in Australia. You did nothing to curb the cancer cells that were growing inside your country. You took no action. You let the disease spread. And the result is the horrific attacks on Jews we saw today.
Isn't he actually saying that he was upset by Australia's decision to recognize Palestine as an independent state and therefore had warned Albanese that Australia will have to pay for it? What's your...
It does sound like that, though, doesn't it? I remember we listened to it yesterday. It was kind of just like, I told you, I warned you, but you didn't listen, and look what happened now. It does seem pretty suspect, you must admit. When you look at it from that angle, did they change explosive laws after the caravan hoax? No, they just changed speech laws before they even finished the investigation. These are pretty wild claims. I tend to believe that the police are just lazy and trying to do the bare minimum rather than actively targeting people who don't fit the agenda. Interesting. I would say, and we've speculated on this, is it like under-resourced or doing the bare minimum? You decide. Cube, any zero? Hello, how you going? Spandong, they banned the Iranian delegation, then said there was no evidence after all, then didn't unban them. Yeah, it's very interesting. So they did something. Ha ha ha. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? They got rid of them. Yeah, cut off diplomatic ties. Got rid of our embassy in Iran as well. Just fucking chop it off. See you later. It was interesting, wasn't it? And it all came on the back of an ASIO report too, I'm pretty sure. Because they had to do something after supporting or claiming to support the state of Israel, right? Sorry, the state of Palestine, and recognizing the state of Palestine. And then Netanyahu was really pissed off, so they had to do something, I guess, to make it look. So they kicked out the Iranians. That was the response there. All right, let's have a look at another kind of claim on this one, a theory explaining everything. Let's have a look. And this one comes from something that we've looked at, this dude here. So I don't know if Jag, if you're still here or you're watching this, but like this is the guy that we saw with the with the bandage on his head the other day, and like there was a lot of speculation in the chat, and like it really is like it just seems too well crafted. But like yeah, there was this guy, he had his bandage on his head and his blood everywhere and all that sort of stuff, and he's speaking, and it turns out that the reason he's probably so articulate is like he does this stuff for life. um he's a human rights lawyer, I think he is. So they explain it. We get a little bit of an explanation on him. People have already speculated that he was some type of crisis actor, but we'll get some speculation on that here. You can see where I've been in the last 24 hours trying to collect information on alternate theories or various theories on what was happening yesterday. But like we'll get a bit of that here. QB cubed goods, sorry, mistaken. Any zero message while working. Oh, okay, fair enough. Is that you, Jericho? Have you changed your name, by the way? Just so I know. Unless somebody's got your exact same profile pic there. Then they said the report linked events that weren't actually linked after all, but didn't take any other action to rectify anything. So weird. Linked events that weren't actually linked after all, but didn't take any other action. Yeah. Who knows what's going on there? You could speculate, though. All right, let's have a listen.
Also present at the shooting was
this is the guy.
He simply replied that the evidence was AI. Also present at the shooting was
This is the dude. Arsen Ostrovsky. That's the guy that we saw with the blood and the bandage, and he was really kind of adamant about I was there. This is the guy. He was like, I was there for October 7. Like I was, I'm ground zero and I've come here and it's happened again. And he was like, this is war. He didn't say it like that. I think he said something else, but like, basically we got to fight now. Against, I guess, Islam, I guess, is his insinuation then. Or radical Islam. Still here. Let's do this. This is the guy, Jack. This is him.
He simply replied that the evidence was AI. Also present at the shooting was the so-called human rights lawyer Arsen Ostrovsky, who also advocated strongly for the genocide in Gaza for 2 years. He also tried very hard to justify Israel's attacks on the many hospitals in the Gaza Strip. Arsen claimed that a bullet hit him in the head and caused him to bleed. He immediately dropped to the ground and took a selfie, wrote the captions, "Help me," and then uploaded it to social media. Kind of a strange thing to do mid-shooting. Now,
that's the claim, right? So like that's all that they've got about him. But he's a human rights lawyer. Like obviously he's an activist or an advocate, let's say, of Israel and its right for self-determination. And yeah, he's taken selfies. If you haven't seen, there's that guy that we saw with the bandage on the head yesterday. He took and uploaded a picture of himself to social media covered in blood while it was happening and said the words, "Help me." I can't show the thing now because I don't know if I should really put that up here on a stream. But you can go if you want into Discord and you can have a look. It's been put in the general chat, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, his connection, like we were all pondering yesterday, we're like, fuck, why is he so well versed? What's going on here? Now he is a lawyer. So like lawyers seem to have a good handle on their articulation, and he's a human rights lawyer and he's an advocate for, obviously releasing the hostages. He's been in Israel. He was there for October 7th. He's well versed in all of this sort of stuff. So very opinionated, I would say. And he's not shy of putting things on social media. Now, it's pure speculation to say that this guy is just some type of crisis actor just because he's put something on social media. Like, I think in today's, age, like if you were shot in the head, or like, let's just say you had something on your face, let's just say, and you wanted to know what it looked like, and you didn't have a mirror, like most people do pull their phone out to check it out. Now, I'm not saying that makes sense when you're being shot at, but like the descriptions that we heard yesterday, there were a lot of people lying on the ground and just waiting and waiting and waiting. And like they're just lying on the ground because they don't know where to go or where the shoot is coming from. But like it's kind of just the way that the cookie crumbles kind of thing. So, Who knows what this guy was really up to, but it is strange that he was posting that during the event. It is very, very weird. But like well versed because he's fucking in the thick of it, this guy. He's well in the thick of it.
Head and caused him to bleed. He immediately dropped to the ground and took a selfie, wrote the captions, "Help me," and then uploaded it to social media. Kind of a strange thing to do mid-shooting. Now, as we discussed earlier, this event is being weaponized and politicized for political gain. Israel's prime minister publicly accused Australia's leadership of fostering a climate of hatred.
Sent Prime Minister Albert.
This guy gets a lot of fucking repeat play here. These are the same people who are filming their war crimes, posting during shooting. Doesn't surprise me when it comes to is not Israelis. There it is. Yeah, it's Jericho. I'm not sure why YouTube shows my account now instead. Oh well, fair enough. It's good to know. I've seen a lot of human rights activists do that. I wonder if it's so in case they do pass away and maybe lose their phone too, they have evidence saved to a cloud. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't want to listen to this guy again.
But
encourages the Jew hatred, now stalking your streets.
This is obviously absurd, but you can expect the Zionists to continue driving this point home in order to achieve their goals. Dr. Rahma wrote on X, translation, "We warned you not to recognize Palestine, so now you must protect us from anti-Semitism or you too will need protecting. Your punishment is to restrict your nation's civil liberties and be treated like an occupied territory, silenced, monitored, and policed."
So just think about that for a second. Like there's some fucking huge, inception shit going on there with that allegation. But the allegation is this: we warned you not to recognize Palestine, so now you must protect us from anti-Semitism or you too will need protecting. So we warned you, and so like we're going to make sure that you deliver on protecting interests that align with ours. This is the insinuation here. Your punishment is to restrict your nation's civil liberties and to be treated like, so you now have to clamp down as we have warned you to do in the past. And you're going to have to take extra steps now because you didn't do what we asked. You have to take extra steps just like you would if you were in a position where you were subordinate to us as a dominant power. So like an occupied territory. Silenced, monitored, and policed. We're going to be watching you and policing your behavior from now on. And it's the tool is the rhetoric that they're using, like the word anti-Semitism. This is a very interesting way of looking at the situation. Not at all far-fetched. You can't really say that it's too far to stretch that one because he's pretty much said it himself. Like, we told you, and now look what's happened, kind of thing. And like Australia, perfect place to do it. I think there was that security consultant that they were speaking to before about terrorism. He was kind of like, Australia is kind of the land of milk and honey. It is ripe for this type of stuff. This is a perfect place for this to happen. Largely peaceful society, strict gun laws, all that sort of stuff. It's ripe for terrorist activity because it sends an important message to the world, really. So these are interesting takes, all of this stuff. LOL, and I'm the crazy one for wanting a gun for self-defense. Didn't say you were crazy. Never said you were crazy. I just don't think it's the solution. I never said you were crazy, though. I don't think it's crazy to want to defend oneself. I just don't know if it's... I think it may be futile, considering the society that we live in. At the moment, and it seems to not help with reducing gun violence, as we have seen in other countries. Now, whether you should defend yourself or not, that's completely separate, I would say. All right, back to it.
Another user tweeted, "A guest on Sky News speaking about the Bondi beach attack draws a..."
So good. I love how no one can say Bondi. It's fucking hard, apparently. It's not Pam Bondi, okay? It's Bondi.
Reckless and false parallel, suggesting pro-Palestine rallies and chants like "From the River to the Sea" are clear calls to kill Jews worldwide. The presenter does not push back. This is disgusting.
I have to call it what it is, pro-Palestinian rallies when they hear death to Jews, gas the Jews, and from the river to the sea, which is a clear directive of kill Jews worldwide. Globalize the Intifada means kill Jews wherever you are.
And this tweet here by Candace Owens from a few weeks ago
Has anyone seen this? Has anyone seen this? This has come up more and more now. I've seen other people talking about this. Candace Owens, they have been signaling that a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet. It will age well. And this is from the 28th of November. And everyone's like, see, Candace was right. Like, well, what the fuck does she know then? Hey, where does she get her sources from? Because she's also the one that's been pushing and peddling theories about is not real and its involvement in the Kirk situation. And it's like, what does she know about is not real? It's a fair question, because if you remember to what happened with the Kirkster, fucking Benjamin Netanyahu was very suspicious around that whole situation. Like, he basically said just after it happened, he was like, we had nothing to do with it. Israel had nothing. I had nothing to do with it. My heart goes out to Kirk and the family, kind of thing. This is like, why did you say that? No one said anything. Now I'm thinking this is a bit strange. War criminal Netanyahu, eh? I had to give Hassan props last night for getting Bondi right. Yes, thank God. But he would have been to Bondi, I reckon, right, when he came to Australia. I'm hoping that's why. Eh? I've seen a bunch of 9/11 style attack posts for months now. Say it enough, and eventually they'll be right. Hey, just keep putting it out there, and somebody will repost it. Be like, say. Oh God, Candace, shit post enough crazy theories, and out is bound to luck out and happen. LOL. There you go. Candace also doesn't get shadow banned on YouTube, and her lawyers are based in the same building as the feds. Interesting, eh? I see the most basic white girls that I know liking Candace's content. Yeah, but this is doing the rounds. I've seen this come up a lot now, and people are like quoting this all the time.
Now going viral. They have been signaling a 9/11 style attack is coming the second week of December. Save this tweet, it will age well. The shooting took place on December 14th, the final day of the second week of December. It's too soon, of course, to speculate, but anytime you have a mass shooting like this, you have to question nefarious actors like intelligence agencies. And there are some interesting questions swirling around. For example, an IDF soldier asked, do you think Iran is behind the Sydney attack? An Iranian Twitter user replied, I got fatigue of Israeli Jews constantly trying to agitate the Goyim to bomb my country. The shooter, Naveed Akram, is literally a Pakistani from Lahore. Both shooters went to the Salafi sectarian MI6-funded El Murad Institute. On the bookshelf, you can see titles by Ibn Baz, Al Uthaymin, and other slimeball authors associated with Saudi Wahhabi Salafism, a sect that is openly hostile to Iran, Iranian people, Iranian culture, Shia Islam, and the Iranian state. Tired of this stupid bullshit over and over and over and over again, and dumbasses keep falling for it. These shootings are intentional and designed to distract people from Israel's crimes and point the finger at people and countries Israel wants to destroy. There are also reports that the shooter's name may have been Googled in Israel a day before the shooting. One of the perpetrators of the Bondi beach attack in Sydney, Australia, was Googled in Tel Aviv on December 13th, one day before the attack. Now, this is something that was claimed about the DC shooter with the National Guard and Charlie Kirk's assassination. It's very difficult to actually verify this information because of the fact that the data changes either because of traffic or an issue with the algorithm, or perhaps it getting deliberately wiped. There are also time differences to consider as well. So I don't actually know if it's
not to detract from the event, but this is far from a 9/11 style attack. Fair enough. Like logistically and like technically, it's very far from it. Like if you're talking about in terms of the gravity of the situation, in terms of the mass, the sheer mass of the destruction, then yes, I agree too. But like, you know, for I think Australia in its historical context, like this is pretty fucking up there, in terms of as grave as it gets, in terms of, you know, like body count and stuff like that. But like, yes, it's not a 9/11. Gravity or sorry, mass or scale, that's for sure. But like, hey, Candace can now say that she was right. See? I saw a viral right-wing video showing Netanyahu making comments about the Twin Towers before they were hit. Had so many likes and comments agreeing with the statement. Can't wait to see how Candace links Bondi. LOL. But yeah, Netanyahu said some pretty crazy shit though over the years, and so like you have to question it. Like even like he gave all that, he's given evidence about like, you know, Iraq, weapons of mass destruction and all that sort of stuff. He said some crazy shit over the years to suit his agenda. Far from 9/11 attack because a random Muslim dad saved the day. What about, do you remember hearing about that extra plane that went down in some field? I can't remember where it was, but there was like another plane that was set to take out another location, and people on the plane, you know, fought the, I don't know, people in the cockpit and brought it down. So yeah, random people saving the day is a thing. Pennsylvania. Okay. Worst terrorist attack in Australian history. And what do you know? The government dropped the ball despite having prior knowledge. The connection is Netanyahu's predictions of violence that is later used to justify acts of war. I don't believe that story either. Flight B96. You don't believe the story, but like, you know, that does help like people with digesting the reality of what was going on that day, right? And why the plane went down. Ava Lava's in the house. No way. How you going? Hope you're well. Hope you're servicing capital these days or close to it. Not that like I want you to service capital, but you know what I mean. Given the resentment of Israel's Zionist genocide, the fact that many people don't differentiate it from Judaism and the annual occurrence of this event, is it surprising that anyone could predict this? I guess not. Like that's the thing, like that's the speculation as well. When like Netanyahu has said things like, you know, I mean, like we've seen it a couple of times now today, and he's just like, you did this, Australian government, like you're responsible for this. And it's just like, well, you know, you're responsible for this. Like your government is responsible for this because your government has been carrying out a genocide. And so like, what do you think is going to happen? People are going to take matters into their own hands and seek retribution on behalf of others and all that sort of stuff. So like, you know, when people make that claim in line with what you're saying there, is it difficult or is it even surprising that anyone could predict something like this? Well, especially when you've got that consultant that we heard speaking about before, and he's like, look, sorry to say it, but like this was coming. This was coming. It was going to happen in some way, shape, or form. He seemed very matter of fact about that, right? I think they shot it down. Damn. Flight 96 was aimed at the Pentagon and went down in a field nearby. All right. Let's just let this guy finish, shall we?
Accurate, but I do think it's worth mentioning. Now, if you're interested, you can watch my recent video about the Zionist psyop to demonize Muslims and Islam in order to pit Muslims versus Christians in the West so that they can deflect attention away from Israel. There are a lot of unanswered questions about this shooting. For example, who exactly were the attackers? What was their background? What was their motivation? Were they acting alone? Were they guided by others? Were they manipulated and influenced by other people, perhaps an intelligence agency? Why did they target this?
Perhaps an intelligence agency, eh? Just saying, eh? This guy has so many chairs. Yeah, and they're fancy as fuck too. Like, look at the upholstery on that one, and it's brilliant. Look at that chandelier or whatever the fuck it is. Maybe it's not a chandelier. I think that's just a lamp. It's beautiful. That rabbi that died at Bondi had some deep connections to the IDF. Yeah, I feel like they picked that spot not just for Jews, but certain Jewish targets. Yeah.
Specific event. Let me know what you think in the comments.
Let me know what you think in the comments. People love doing that one. A Muslim man took down a Mossad agent. Fucking savage. My God. Ahmed al-Ahmed really sabotaged their plan. Jesus. It's really interesting how popularized that guy has become, Ahmed has become. I thought that people would be dismissive of it, but he's kind of become a symbol. And it's like beyond just the fact that he did a heroic act, like it really is a thorn in the typical narrative, isn't it? Very interesting. All right. Let me know what you think in the comments. All right, let's get him. Let's get the guy. Let's get the man of the hour. I want to see him talk. This guy has so many chairs. This is the dude.
What we saw yesterday was an act of pure evil, an act of terror, an act of anti-Semitism, an attack on the first day of Hanukkah targeted at the Jewish community. A dark day in Australia's history. It's the courage of everyday Australians who, without hesitating, put themselves in danger in order to keep their fellow Australians safe.
My son is a hero. He served the police. He served with the police and has the impulse to protect the people. So this is his father. Ahmed al-Ahmed's father.
وعنده اندفاع يعني وعنده حب الدفاع عن الناس. لما شاف الناس
When he saw these people on the ground covered in blood, his conscience and morals compelled him to attack one of the terrorists and take away his weapon.
أحد الإرهابيين خلصوا سلاح تبعه ولاز بالفرار هذاك.
He, the terrorist, ran away. At the same moment, the armed man's partner was standing on the bridge. I don't know the exact location because of the pictures that came out. But it looks like he had a sniper rifle and tried to kill him and shot him in the shoulder. I was wondering how he got shot. I thought he might have got sprayed. But like he got shot by this dude, by the son, on the bridge after taking the gun. That is pretty fucking ballsy. Like, it's not just the one shooter that you have to worry about. Like, there's the guy that's covering him on the bridge as well. It's fucking ballsy as fuck. My God. This is the guy here. This is the hero. Let's see what he has to say for himself. I swear to God. What can I even say? I went through a tough time that only God knows about. What would you like to say to anyone? What about to your mum? Pray for us. Pray for us. May God grant you long life and hopefully the injuries are just something minor. May God grant you long life and may increase your perseverance. I don't know all the details. This is his mum, I think. They told me that he was involved in an incident and that he was in hospital. You know how a mother feels when she fears for her son has been involved in an incident. Then when I heard the details, I became very proud that my son was helping people and saving lives. What did she say to him? Allah will not hurt him. Thank God he only had bullets in the hand and shoulder. Allah will not hurt him because he was doing good.
He's a hero. 100% he's a hero, because what we see on the social media, he's 100% hero.
Yeah, I just can't believe he had the courage to run straight in and put his body on the line for so many people. Like, he saved so many people. If it wasn't for him, who knows how long it could have kept on going.
Yeah, especially when someone was firing at him from the bridge still, I think, just insane.
It's mesmerising, yeah.
You'd like to hope that you would react the same way if you had the chance. I don't know if I'm as strong as he is. He was incredibly strong and very brave and managed to take the gun off the guy, which is incredible.
Yeah, I think he's a national hero for sure. Probably a international hero. A lot of people around the world wouldn't have done that. A lot of people would have run away from the gunfire. He ran towards it, so fair play to him. Probably saved a lot of lives.
There you go. There you go. Okay. He breaks the fourth wall. Muslim does good while Muslim do bad. Muslim helps while Jews die. Breaks all the narratives. Maybe he was just an Aussie doing his part, but no. It's all about his religion. There it is. That's your gripe of the day right there. Isn't it? Right there. Defined. There it is. All right, I think, we've covered some theories today. We've definitely covered some theories. I don't know if there's... I don't know if there's more at this stage, any value we're going to get out of this. Just read Mossad is now helping with the investigation. It was interesting before when that guy, the security consultant or whatever his delineation was like, look, we're going to get information from the Americans on this. That's where you turn to when they don't have information about Naveed or enough information on Naveed themselves. They're going to turn to American intelligence. Now Mossad is involved. Of course. This is that post that we saw from that person before. It was like, okay, you didn't listen to us and now we're going to impose our will on you. And so like they're involved in the investigation. So are they going to take precedence here? This is a Mossad operation now. Step aside, Australian Federal Police. Step aside, ASIO. We'll do it. We'll take it from here. Fuck yeah, it is. Australians first. And ACCA is an Aussie by my metric. ACCA. Hey? I have a soft spot for foreign fruitiers. That's interesting, actually. He does own a fruit shop, isn't it? In Sutherland, somewhere. Hey, could he go patronize that fruit shop? That's for sure. All right. I think it is time for us to shift gears on this one. There was one person I wanted to actually have a listen to on this, to highlight the way that the culture wars are going to go on this one. But like the wars that I see at the moment is really like anti-governmental kind of stuff. And it's all just being peddled by coalition douchebags that are just like seizing the opportune moment. They don't really care too much about the event itself, I would say, but they're using this as massive political capital to bring down the government and say that the government is responsible. Now, like the weird thing I find in relation to any of these types of arguments is that people are just like, the government hasn't done enough, the authorities haven't done enough. Like, how dare they? They all need to step down, bring down the government. They need to resign. Albo's got to go. And like, the authorities have completely fucked up. They all need to go. But this guy, this Naveed, from what I understand and what we've looked at today, was put on this list in 2019. And like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a completely different government at that point. And I'm assuming it would have been a different head of ASIO at that point in 2019. So like, I don't know what they're talking about here. If he was classified back then and they thought they should have dealt with him, why the fuck didn't they deal with him in 2019? But like, let's hear what they have to say about this. And now this woman, for our international audience, check out this character. This is a very confronting style of Australiana for you right here. I know we've been looking at some Pauline recently, some Pauline Hanson, and she gives you a very interesting, she's a very interesting case study in Australian culture, Australian accents, the way we articulate words, say things. She's another category altogether, this one. All right, watch this.
This has been a complete, total and utter failure of leadership by our Prime Minister. The Jewish people for over 2 years now, since October the 8th, when we saw those horrific scenes on the Sydney Opera House, have been calling for leadership from our Prime Minister. And each time he has stood up, Chris, and provided us with nothing more than weasel words. He has chosen appeasement over consequences. And now we wake up today as Australians in a changed country. Chris?
When she says appeasement, do you reckon she means because they decided to recognise the state of Palestine? That's what she means? Instead of doing something, I don't know, about anti-Semitism at home, etc., etc. She's like, oh, they shouldn't have recognised Palestine. I guess that's what she means by appeasement.
This is not the Australia I know and love.
It's the best fruit. So hot. Eh? That's hilarious. Her hairdresser. Oh, Taygard, were you here when we watched the document from that guy? I don't know what he is, what his channel is. Looks like some type of reporter from India, maybe. Yeah, we watched your piece, by the way. We've been looking at theories today.
People were slaughtered on Bondi. I know and love. Jewish people were slaughtered on Bondi Beach because anti-Semitism has been allowed to take hold under the Albanese government. Today, Mr Albanese stood up and said he will do whatever it takes to combat anti-Semitism. Well, guess what, Chris? We are going to hold the Prime Minister to his word. Enough of the excuses. Enough of the weasel words. The first thing the Prime Minister needs to answer, Chris, is this. Gillian Segal, your hand-picked envoy, she did not provide you 6 months ago with a list of slogans. Prime Minister Albanese, Gillian Segal provided you and your government with a to-do list. You have not even had the decency to respond to your own hand-picked envoy's report. What are you going to do? And as Susan Lee has made clear, Chris, if we need to recall the Parliament, we stand ready to return to Canberra to change the laws. The laws are clearly not strong enough. The Segal report deserves implementation immediately, and we stand ready to do that.
It sure does. It sure does. You're seeing live pictures now of the commemoration here at Bondi Pavilion, where people have been turning up and laying wreaths all day. Many people have made speeches or said silent prayers. Others have spoken to the audiences here, and we're waiting on the New South.
The worst horror I've seen is that head. She's quite the fucking character, like in all senses, right? She's the complete character. We see horrifical scenes daily of the suffering of Gazans, you old bag of bones. Nice selective rage. Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it? That's selective. I'm so overhearing the right talk. I honestly just done. I just want the same world where people can discuss politics. I just want a sane world, I guess. Instead, all we get are nutbags, and it's because we give them so much focus. She's really intense, isn't she? I can hear all the screams of old boomers angrily agreeing with their TV screens while watching this. It's funny how they are acting exactly as we predicted, trying to twist the story into their own means. That's the worst part. Like, she is just non-stop going off about it's the Albanese government who has done this. It's just like, fuck, calm down. Like, you know, this is a fucking tragedy. Can you just stop the politics on this one for a second? Like, you know, off comments about it, fair enough. But like, this is just fucking political opportunism. And like from what a person as well. Instead of focusing on progress, we're stuck in reaction. Just like the far
Whilst
right.
Premier Chris Minns as well. But just to explain those pictures you're seeing there have been all sorts of comments made, speeches made, and performances, if you like, sharing thoughts and emotions with people here as they've come and gone all day. Michaelia, I want to let you know that I started the day this morning in Ararat in Western Victoria, and I saw a couple of women walking their dog at 6 o'clock in the morning as I was trying to get back here, and I asked them how they felt about Bondi. It's very close to me. This is a beach I come to every day. And they were gut-wrenched, and they teared up, and they said the government needs to look at immigration. Is immigration part of the discussion here?
Boom. It's just been culture warred. There it is. Here it is. It's just been culture war. We were speaking about this yesterday. We're like, you know, there will be a culture war element to this. And like the guy he was born in Australia. Like, what are you going to do about immigration when you have someone that's born here? Like, what are you going to do? Fucking get a time machine? We have to go back and stop him from being born. Will you accept this mission, Michaelia Cash? I'll do it. I'll fucking do it.
I think we have to have a very serious discussion, Chris, now about values-based immigration. Yes, this was an attack, a direct attack on the Jewish community. Members of the Jewish community were slaughtered last night on Bondi Beach, but this was also an attack on all of Australia, on our way of life, on our safety, on our culture, on the Australia that we love and hold so dear. So yes, I am very prepared now, Chris, to have an open conversation on the type of Australia that we need. But again, shame on the Prime Minister, because Gillian Segal, in one of her recommendations, said we needed to look at settings, and in particular the ability to cancel a visa as quickly and efficiently as possible in light of anti-Semitism. Again, the Prime Minister has done nothing. I mean, as Josh Frydenberg correctly wrote today, this is the Prime Minister who on October the 8th, he said to all of Australians, but in particular the Jewish community, I will not, as your Prime Minister, allow anti-Semitism to get a foothold in Australia. Well, Prime Minister, you failed Australians by your inaction and your appeasement and your excuses as opposed to consequences and enforcement.
Michaelia Cash, thanks so much, obviously. I can hear the passion in your voice. I do want to add that I think this immigration debate has to be part of the discussion.
We have to have it now.
We need to be careful and sensible about it.
Yes.
But we have to have this immigration debate. I do quickly point out, though, that hero we saw yesterday taking down one of the gunmen was, by all accounts, a Syrian refugee.
Correct.
So it's about values-based, and many members of our Jewish community, of course, are immigrants.
Yeah, it fucks up fucks it up, doesn't it? It really fucks up the narrative. I'm surprised they brought it up. It's funny. So, like, this is what the visa application is going to look like now. They're going to have two options. It's like, would you stop a terrorist act? Tick the box here. Would you partake in a terrorist act? Tick this box over here. The ones that tick the box over here on the right, don't let into the country. The ones that would stop a terrorist act, those are the values that you want. Tick that box. Fucking problem sorted. It's going to be that simple. That's the obvious answer to this. Instead of focusing on progress, we're stuck in the reaction. Emotional manipulation, mainstream media is just pure emotional rage bait these days. Got to compete with social media somehow, don't you? In the attention economy, and you're going to keep people's eyeballs on you. Fucking this woman, she's something else, she is. You don't want to wind her up too hard. She'll get ya. She's from WA as well, isn't she? And we've got a few Western Australian people here. Can you vouch for her, please? Our friends from Western Australia. Can you please explain what's going on here? All right, we are shifting gears. Okay, I'm done with this. Like, we've heard some theories, we've got some alternative discussions going on about what's happened, but we are shifting gears. So the other part of the title today was something that I've wanted to have a look into. She's got that Julia Gillard, Kath and Kim accent. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, she's got Kath down pat, I would say. Yeah. Look at me. Look at me. Yeah, this is the other topic that I wanted to cover today. I want to have a look at this idea. Good slap with a rotten fish. Yeah, there's this understanding out there, like completely shifting gears now, ladies and gentlemen. But there's this kind of conception out there that China has this thing called a social credit score system. It's different. It's unusual. I like it. Yeah, it has a social credit system, and like people have spoken about this for years now, like years, as if it is just a given that everybody just knows that China has a social credit score system. And like in China, if you're, walking around and you do the wrong thing, they're watching you, you buy the wrong thing, you break, minor indiscretion in civil society, your credit goes down and you can't leave the country, or you can't buy a train ticket or something like that. And, you speak to people about like China and stuff like that, and they're just like, they're so sure. They're just like, yeah, man, it's just one of those things. It's a full authoritarian society, and like, that social credit system. Oh my God. Come on, Mr. E, give us your best calf. That was my best calf. That was it. Like, oh, it's different. It's unusual. I like it. That's as good as I can remember. I tried to watch, actually, they have it on Netflix, and I watched a bit of it the other day, maybe the very first episode or something. Wow. That's like fucking, like, that's a time machine travel experience, that is. I think it's filmed in the early 2000s. If there's any international people watching this, you want to understand what Australian culture is like. Still so good. Yeah, yeah, it is. There's a show called Kath and Kim. If you can find it, just watch an episode of it. And you'll be Australian after that. You can take a citizenship test. We'll let you in the country. Just tick the box that says that you will fight terror. And you'll get into the country for sure. It's only in some cities, I think. China is awesome. Hassan told me so. So did Dan Andrews. Why would I not believe them? Exactly, right? Why the fuck would you listen to people like Hassan and Dan Andrews, especially when you know that they have a social credit system? Well, this dude from the ABC has done an investigation on it, and he's going to try and bust the myth that China has this kind of whole social credit system, which I think is absolutely fascinating, because like when you speak to people, they're just so convinced that this thing exists. And I remember like a couple of years ago saying this in some content, that it's just like, well, like, we also have like a credit system here, and so like it's very similar to this idea that you can get nabbed if you don't, follow social decorum, like pay your debts, or like, pay off your credit card, and you can get hit back and like documented by financial institutions, and like people can use it against you when they're, assessing whether you can get a mortgage or something, or whether you can go for a job if you've got a bad credit score or something like that. This type of information can be used against you, and people are just like, no, that's bullshit. It's nothing the same. Now, let's have a look at this, because I think the West has these kind of preconceived ideas, or these narratives that have just been like kind of just dropped and let simmer in our minds about like what China's really all about. And I don't know if it's really, a lot of it's based on anything substantial. So I think this might be interesting for some people to have a look at. Like I remember one city I went to had cameras everywhere and guard posts around every corner with cameras. Anyone watched Mr. In Between? That's real Australia. LOL. Have you seen the story about the famous MMA fighter? He got a bad social credit score and was barred from main transport because he was humiliating martial artists all around China. Interesting. ABC, because they definitely don't have bias. Like, bias towards who though? Like Xi Jinping or or the People's Communist Party. Like, anyway, but they definitely have bias. But like, to who in a case like this? Kath and Kim and the castle are on the citizenship test. There you go. I knew it. So anyway, let's have a listen. And like, we'll stop where we can to try and fact check this guy. And see if he really does service in destroying the idea of the social credit system. And if it is as dystopian as we believe. And we're going to have a quick break before we start that. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. All right. Let's do this, shall we? I want to hear about China's social credit system. I've watched a bit of it just to kind of like screen it, but like, I want to know, is it true? Where did it come from? He got a bad social credit score because he was barred from main transport because he was humiliating martial artists around China. It was a big deal because Kung Fu was part of their identity, and they were saying that he was disrespecting China. Bias to whoever is in charge of their funding? I don't know. Xi Jinping, maybe? I don't know. We'll find out, shall we? We'll find out.
These days. Across the country, China has reportedly got more than 700 million CCTV cameras these days. Across the country, cameras and spyware are watching. That's one camera for every 2 citizens. China has long been a surveillance state. Now Big Brother meets Big Data. For the last decade or so, Western media has been talking about how the Chinese government is pioneering technology which allows them to keep tabs on their entire population. What you do, say, and even think is being monitored and marked against you. Back in 2018, we were being told that they were on the verge of being able to assign everyone in China a social credit score, which could radically affect the lives of people with a low rating. Sounds dramatic, but it's the party line. Pilot programs for a national social credit system are already underway. By 2020, the official outline boasts it will allow the trustworthy to roam freely under heaven, while making it hard for the discredited to take a single step. This system has been discussed widely in Western media and politics for more than a decade now.
So in China, for example, God, this is going to happen here, I think.
This guy. This is the guy. Eh? Are you worried? Are you worried? Thank God Jordan Peterson is talking about China. What an authority.
Too. Although maybe people will fight it. If a traffic camera catches you jaywalking in China, the digital ID system has you.
Jordan Peterson, the Canadian psychologist seen as some kind of super genius oracle in the podcast Bro universe, is terrified of this system.
It will convict you of jaywalking and take money out of your bank account with no intermediating judiciary at all, and show a picture of you to the people in the neighborhood so they know that you have jaywalked, and reduce your social credit score.
Here in Australia, the Chinese social credit system has been described as the inevitable endpoint of the government's online safety code.
If you want to know what Australia's future looks like in its current trajectory, go and have a look at Shenzhen in China. Cameras everywhere, facial recognition, a digital currency, and a social credit system.
The whole thing sounds very scary.
And if your social credit score falls below a certain level, you can't buy drinks from a vending machine. You can't play video games. You can't go on a train. You can't get out.
LOL, I jaywalk damn near every day. Well, in fucking Palantir's America, then which they're building the infrastructure for, they will see you, they will know, and they'll just directly deduct credits from your bank account. We have caught you again, Jack. What do you have to say for yourself? Like, you know, this is the system. And like, you know, it really feels like a lot of this kind of, oh my God, China's got this credit system is kind of like just envy. Because there's like players out there that are just like, damn, I wish I had access to this technology. New York City economy would collapse if they started penalizing jaywalking. Does the social credit score help you make your bed? And what do you mean by believe? Okay. Does it help you make your bed? I guess not. Unless they have a camera in your bedroom, but like maybe they could get there.
Out of your 15-minute city. All that's already in place in China.
But is it though? I've been hearing about the social credit system for a long time. Not just in the news media, but in fictional series like Black Mirror. And yet if you ask people who actually live in China, it's a very different story.
I was asking my supplier actually, right? And people who live there, right? And apparently it's not true. It's bullshit. There's no social credit score.
Every time a Western government tries to increase its control over the internet, we hear that this is the beginning of a slippery slope that leads to jaywalkers being prevented from using vending machines. And now I'm being told this dystopian AI-powered surveillance system doesn't exist. And in fact, it was never going to. So what on earth is going on here? And how does this social credit system actually work? I'm Matt Bevan, and this is If You're Listening.
Dun, dun, dun. That was fucking epic. They definitely have used the taxpayer money on editing, eh? Like they've got great sound people and pretty good editors, I'd say. Did he say the judiciary? Hey, what do they have to do with this? I guess that's why Peterson is against it. Can't accomplish anything if you don't make your bed first. Eh? Peterson, come on. It's a nice setup. We'll see where he's going with this one, shall we? But it is interesting to think about, right? When we had a look at, if you ever have been here for streams, when we look at the guy from the New Atlas, Brian from the New Atlas, his grand theory on things like why Nepal happened was because the Americans want to have control over the internet, and they hate when countries try and take regulatory control over their own internet spaces. And so all of the stuff that you see, all of the rhetoric, the narrative out there that, like, you know, for free and internet, free from restriction, is actually about making sure that countries don't try to get any autonomy over their internet, and try to regulate the internet space, because like the tech bros of the world, the Silicon Valley ones specifically, they want to make sure that the internet is an unregulated space, so they can kind of control everybody outside of basically China. Outside of China, they can control that internet space because it's lucrative to have control over that level of means of production. And so like it's important for them to have an unregulated space, and it's important for American kind of imperial strategy, or for like the American state, because, you know, then they can also control the narrative too if they have access to everybody's internet unregulated. And so, you know, there's I do believe that people believe that they are worried about Big Brother and like internet censorship and, you know, digital identification. And so like someone like, you know, like Jordan Peterson, and people that peddle this kind of fear about like, oh, you know, this is what China does or has the capability of doing. And so like, you know, if we regulate our internet spaces, then we're just going to turn into China. And so I do believe that they are concerned about civil liberties and like the destruction of freedom of expression, and anonymity online. I do believe that they think these are real issues. But like, as Brian would point out, whose interests does it serve where to have an internet that is not regulated, to have an internet or a digital reality that is not looked after by an individual nation? It is the interests of the big tech bros out there. They want to have an internet that is basically dominated by America and US interests for their own profitability, but also in America's sense, in their imperial tendencies, because it is their vehicle for soft power. It's how they influence the world. It's how they disseminate narratives and stories and control everybody's thinking. It's how they manufacture consent. It's done through the internet these days and the Internet of Things. And so, you know, when they disseminate these stories about scary, scary China kind of thing, is it part of a psyop? So we resist our own governments trying to regulate our digital landscapes because there's a tech bro out there that just doesn't want that. Like, you know, I know it's layers and layers of psyop here and like some big conspiratorial stuff, but it begs an interesting question, right? Something. Every accusation is an admission. Yeah. It's an interesting point, isn't it? Making use of $1 billion budget. I see. I actually hate this streamer aesthetic that everyone clones, huh? Yeah, this stuff in the background. It's the way it is. If you want to be a talking head now, you got to have this, right? I miss the some guy with shit cam mic and lighting era. Darn, I'm keeping it alive, bro. I got a green screen, shitty green screen here. And like sometimes when the good camera fails, I'm back onto the old shitty camera.
I am delighted to announce that 2 of my children have now reached the age where I can tell them back in my day stories and they can mostly understand them. I didn't say that they enjoy them, but they do understand them. So recently I was telling one of them that when I was a kid, we couldn't just stream whatever movie we wanted.
Once Mystery gets over 100 viewers per stream, I'm gone, LOL. All right. We'll get there.
We either had to buy it from a shop, rent it, or tape it off the TV. Now, I neglected to mention the little period between Blockbuster Video and Netflix when most people my age just stole all their movies from the internet.
Nearly 3 million Australians use file sharing networks.
It's the easiest option to get movies straight away.
Because it's there, it's easy, it's free. Touch a few buttons and you can have it, it's all yours.
Governments and studios worked hard to stop people pirating things off the internet by promoting legislation blocking sites like Mega Upload and the Pirate Bay. But the piracy websites did have their supporters.
Pirate parties have sprung up to try and promote the rights of internet freedom.
The first pirate party was...
Pirate party. Eh? Australia kind of smashes that idea. Shouldn't America be all over us? Massive left-leaning government, pro-immigration, under 16 bans, suing American companies. Like, are you advocating for America to be all over us? Is that's antithetical to your usual stance that we should be independent and free, right? Or unless you're being sarcastic. Good old pirating days. You still have them.
Was in Sweden, and it was founded by Rick Falkvinge. His perspective was that if movie studios couldn't stop people stealing their stuff, that's their problem, not the government's.
If you're running a business, then it's your responsibility to find a business model within the current constraints of society that allows you to make money. You don't get to dismantle civil liberties even if you can't make money.
Falkvinge was...
What? That's fucking outrageous, eh? What? Is that guy suggesting now that companies rely on the state and say, hey, you regulate this so we can continue to make money. We've got to plug this hole here. People getting access to the stuff that we've made and they're doing it without paying for it. You government better step in and plug the hole. It's like the free market system, capitalism, the market economy relies completely on the state to survive. If the state didn't exist, then we wouldn't have a free market system. We wouldn't have this fantasy that the free market is this force that controls everything and is needed to support the human race. Okay? What a surprising little story that is. That when people started sharing peer-to-peer information, companies jumped up and down and said, you governments better step in and regulate this. Okay? Better protect our profits. Either way, I'm getting screwed by the Uni Party or getting exploited by the US. Either way, I maintain this position.
It's all about internet freedom and wanted people to be able to exist relatively anonymously online, which is why in 2015 he wrote an article on his website about a disturbing new policy being pursued in China. His article described a loyalty program created by the Chinese retail giant Alibaba, which gave people what the company called a sesame credit score based on what they were buying.
Stop. Give us a second. Alibaba. Did that ever have a system of points? System for customers called a sesame score. Can you very briefly explain this concept, if so? Sorry, his name, Rich Fuck Binge, LOL. What's his name? Are we talking about this guy, the ABC guy, or the guy that established the Pirate Party? Oh, let's have a look. Sesame Credit, Zima Credit, is a consumer credit scoring system developed by Ant Financial, an Alibaba affiliate. Very briefly, it assigns user scores It assigns users a score, roughly 350 to 950, based on things like payment history, debt, contract fulfillment, and behavioral data within Alibaba and platforms. A higher score could give perks such as easier loan approvals, deposit-free rentals, faster visa applications, or preferential services. It's not a government social credit system. It is private, opt-in, commercial credit rating, similar in function, though different in data, to a Western credit score.
This Sesame credit score was not a secret. Alibaba was actually doing its best to promote it to as many Chinese people as possible.
Alibaba launched a campaign called National Credit Day to promote Sesame Credit and also public awareness about the importance of good personal credit.
He said the credit score was meant to encourage people to buy more socially acceptable things. To quote Volkfinger, if you're buying things that the regime appreciates, like dishwashers and baby supplies, your credit score increases. If you're buying video games, your score takes a negative hit. Now, why would maintaining a high score be important? Well, here's a bit of Chinese state media to explain.
With a good score, consumers can rent a car without a security deposit or enjoy simplified visa application procedures to some countries.
Those countries were Luxembourg and Singapore, two countries which Alibaba had somehow come to a commercial agreement with.
Sesame Credit is adding more partners by the day.
Alibaba had a commercial agreement with two countries to get visas into those countries? Can you explain the visa application? Are you saying that Alibaba had a commercial arrangement with two nation states to provide visas for Chinese citizens? Did not provide visas. There were no sovereign delegation of visa authority. Had commercial partnerships with foreign consulates or visa service providers. In these cases, high Sesame score could be used for supporting evidence in visa application processes, typically to waive requirements like proof of funds, employment letters, or security deposits, speed up processing. It did not issue visas or replace a state authority. It provided a commercial credit signal that some visa processors were willing to accept as part of their assessment.
Not commercial agreement. In Singapore, two countries which Alibaba had somehow come to a commercial agreement with.
Sesame Credit is adding more partners by the day.
Alibaba is not a state-owned corporation, but they were one of 8 companies that briefly participated in a trial to help the Chinese government develop a financial credit system, which was ultimately rejected. As part of this, they were given access to information from the Chinese central bank about whether users had failed to pay back any loans in the past. Now, that is exactly the same kind of system that Western countries call a credit score or a credit report. You know, this one.
You need to think about the implications on your credit report if things get out of hand, because it's not just a matter of getting a mortgage. Right now, credit reports are increasingly being used in job screening, for instance.
So Alibaba uses people's credit history and purchase patterns to assess whether they should get certain benefits.
What's 801? Is that like a credit score system? Is that what you mean?
A company spokesperson told tech publication Quartz that it doesn't take into account what you buy, just how much you spend. In other words, no matter how many video games you have in your cart, as long as you can afford them, it's not going to affect your score. Now, would you say that there's anything sinister about this system?
Yeah, out of 850. Okay.
It's not mandatory. You can just opt in or opt out. At worst, it sounds to me like a slightly more invasive frequent flyer program, a credit card reward system with a little bit of extra social engineering built into it. None of the stuff Rick Volkfinger said about Alibaba's program was new or secret or particularly misleading. But he went one step further than anyone else who had talked about this. He wrote that the Chinese government has already announced that it, or something very like it, will become mandatory from 2020. The Chinese government, he says, has also announced that while there are benefits today for obedient people, it intends to add various sanctions for people who don't behave, like limited internet connectivity. Such people will also be barred from serving in certain high status and influential positions, like government official, reporter, CEO, statistician, and similar. He then linked to an English language translation of a Chinese government document titled Planning Outline for the Construction of a Social Credit System. That does sound a little bit more sinister. Falkfinger's article was picked up by the American Civil Liberties Union, the ACLU, and spread right across Western media.
And now Why would the ACLU pick that up? What do they care about that unless they're a vehicle for American propaganda? Please speculate or hallucinate. But why would the American Civil Liberties Union want to spread stories about the Chinese social credit system? Very brief response, please. Why would American Civil Liberties Union care about that? The ACLU might highlight stories about China's social credit system because it serves as a cautionary tale. Okay. An extreme example to warn Americans about surveillance. Hey? Isn't that funny? Like, if my theory is correct, that is like the American propaganda system works in a way that tech bros and people that own the means of production, the digital means of production, they don't want government encroachment at all or regulation into digital spaces. So what they do is they spread stories about like evil China doing surveillance capitalism. And they say, look, they're doing surveillance capitalism, watch out. And meanwhile, the American tech bros are doing surveillance capitalism. And it's just like, look over there. Surveillance capitalism. This is where it can go really bad and what they can do to you if it's done by the state. But when it's done by private companies to data mine you and modify your behavior for profit, that's just living in a free society, baby. Oh, yeah. Emphasizing China helps mobilize public concern against domestic policies, mass data collection, predictive policing, credit scoring, without directly attacking US institutions. Interesting.
Government is testing a new social credit score system which would rank its citizens based on their online behavior. Just the latest in this ever-expanding surveillance state.
It's a way of compiling information on all the way down to the individual levels that can be rolled up into a score that really talks about how well aligned you are with the agenda of the leaders.
The credit system will soon be rolled out across the country, stoking fears of an Orwellian future.
The following year, the Netflix series Black Mirror released an episode called Nosedive, set in a world where everyone was given a social rating out of 5.
You've seen the guest list. They are all like 4.5 or above. They are going to freak at a 2.6, and I am not taking that kind of damage. Plus, I haven't dipped under a 4.7 in like 6 months.
Nosedive was written before the Chinese social credit story hit the news, but it became synonymous with it.
Is this Black Mirror nightmare becoming a reality in China?
So that wasn't China copying Black Mirror, that was Black Mirror copying China.
And it's like that Black Mirror episode, right?
There was an episode about this on Black Mirror.
So China is apparently doing that Black Mirror episode, but for real. Or at least that's what Rick Falfinger is saying, based on his interpretation of this official document. But what did the original document actually say? Well, it's very long and very boring, as all Chinese government documents inevitably are, but it definitely doesn't say anything about Alibaba or Sesame credit scores. In fact, it didn't mention scores at all. The document was vague and sweeping, talking about promoting trustworthiness in social,
Oh my God. Ooh, the quartering. What's that? What's that? What did I miss? Explain. I would like to know more. Promoting trustworthiness.
Financial and legal domains through reward and punishment. There's also some debate about the translation of the document. For instance, the Chinese characters translated into the word credit could also be translated into the word trustworthiness or credibility. So what was this document really, and why was it written? Well, the easiest way to explain the problem the document was trying to solve is by looking at something that happened in 2008, which was a really big year for China.
Beijing is getting ready for the home run to the Olympic Games. With 100 days to go, officials say preparations are on track, and today the Chinese capital offered a small taste of what's to come in August.
But away from the Olympic excitement, a crisis was brewing.
Sanlu is said to have first looked...
Oh, no, not the big quarter pounder. Ah, okay. That's a reference to that. Got it. A content creator, he's a dumbass. Okay.
Learned its milk powder was causing health problems in children last December, possibly even earlier. It waited 6 months before testing the formula in June when it discovered melamine.
Across the country, thousands of babies were being hospitalised with kidney stones and kidney failure.
The infants have all been fed milk powder contaminated with the industrial chemical melamine.
Per capita milk consumption in China had tripled in just 8.
What is melamine? What does that do? What is the industrial chemical melamine? What is the industrial chemical melamine? And what does it do to your body? To make plastics, laminates, adhesives, resins, toxic if ingested, can form crystals in the kidneys, leading to kidney stones, kidney failure, and severe cases, death, particularly dangerous in infants and children. What the fuck, man? It has no safe nutritional use. Oh, I watched Crime Podcast, a deep dive into that incident. Yeah. Yeah, I remember hearing about this stuff, and I remember like it going nuts in the shops, and like people were restricted on how much baby formula they could buy because people just fucking buying it by the trolley loads and then shipping it to China because it was big business.
Years, and dairy farmers were struggling to keep up. Many of them diluted their milk with water so that they could sell more of it, and added protein powder to cheat quality control checks. When some of the milk distribution companies caught on, farmers found that the toxic chemical melamine used to make plastic and glue worked just as well as the protein powder, but was undetectable. Meanwhile, milk that had gone off was also added to the national supply.
Milk was seldom turned away. Even if it smelt rotten, farmers say they were told to put it into a special vat where it would be mixed with good milk and turned into baby formula.
Sanlu, the company with the largest quantity of melamine going into their products, found out about the problem in June of 2008.
But Sanlu
Jeremy from the Quartering? Generic American is the best. Ignore the death toll, though.
Directors took another 2 months to report the contamination to local city officials and to their joint venture partner, New Zealand dairy cooperative Fonterra.
They finally reported it. But what happened then?
Chinese officials did nothing.
No safe nutritional use. Capitalism enters the chat. Let's give it to kids. Just make sure. Yeah. Just to make sure and make money. I know, right? I know, right? It's like, oh, look, there's a regulation about this. We have to put so much of this in. We have to put so much of that in. Oh, they don't test for this? That'd be a great way to add something to formula. It's not like, you know, they're adding this to fucking, I don't know, a bottle of brandy or something like that. No, you're drinking it because the chemicals are going to fuck you up. Like, this is for kids and, like, baby formula. Fucking hell, man. This is the free market system. Sorry. It's not free market system. It's, what is it? Socialism with Chinese characteristics. Bit of letting the industry do their thing in a controlled way. Market socialism.
While Fonterra waited until the 14th of August to mention the issue to New Zealand embassy officials in Beijing, casually at an Olympic cocktail party.
Oh yeah, the Olympics had started just a few days earlier and nobody wanted to cause any fuss.
Finally, the New Zealand Prime Minister learned of the situation in early September and ordered her officials to tell China's central government. Only then did the issue become public.
Hey, I get to say that. All right, you said it, so I still have another one in the bank. It's capitalism, baby.
And poisonous milk powder was recalled.
The consequences were horrific.
Up to 8 babies died from kidney failure and around 300,000 became ill. The Chinese government and producers were criticised.
I think a lot of quality problems happened in China.
I was so angry. What shall we eat to guarantee the safety of our body?
The Chinese government investigated.
It seems that some people already knew about this problem for some time, but did not share the information.
The country's melamine milk scandal has revealed safety loopholes in almost every link of the dairy supply chain.
There were lots of prosecutions and 2 perpetrators were executed.
China's premier has visited sick children.
Hold up. Were 2 people executed in China as a result of the baby formula melamine scandal? If so, what were the position of these people in relation to this issue? Yes, in November 2009, Chinese authorities executed 2 men in their roles in the 2018 melamine-tainted baby formula scandal. A milk producer and trader convicted of producing and selling melamine-laced protein powder. Jen Jinping, a milk supply distributor convicted of adding melamine-laced powder to fresh milk and selling it to dairy companies. Fuck. Hell yeah. The nutritional pyramid we all grew up with is disgustingly guilty of this. It was put together by big cereal, dairy, and meat. We're still trying to recover from the damage it did to health literacy. I wonder if is there any like alternative to the pyramid then that people should be using? Like, look at that though. Like, you know, socialism, even if it's market socialism, whatever the fuck you want to call it, state capitalism, as you probably know my position on this. Hey, at the end of the day, when people involved in the market do the wrong thing and it results to people dying, then like they face penalties. Now, I'm not advocating for the death penalty here. But like, this is an instance where you have someone be penalized for being a bad actor in the market. That doesn't happen in Western style capitalism, let's say, and free market societies. Like, you can crash the world fucking economy and take hundreds of thousands of fucking people's houses away from them, displace and like, destroy the lives of millions of people. And like, you get a bailout, and then you get to use that bailout to pay yourself fucking bonuses. No one goes to jail. In China, babies die because people do something incredibly unethical and they fucking kill them. Worlds apart there in terms of accountability. That's fucking mental.
And condemned his country's dairy industry as chaotic.
Despite this, people continued to put melamine in the milk for years because unless you were caught, the benefits for the suppliers outweighed the consequences. The Chinese government needed to come up with a system to hold these people to account, to ensure that the people responsible didn't just set up in another province and start doing the same thing all over again. The problem was, at the time, there wasn't really a good way to keep track of what people were doing. Now, here in the West, we obviously have corporate scandals too, but the scale of this scandal in terms of the number of people involved, it's hard to imagine something like this happening in a highly developed country. And that's in part because developed countries have robust institutions and systems designed to prevent this kind of thing. Most of that comes down to paperwork. You know, tax file numbers, employment records, driver's licenses, social security numbers. Western governments have a lot of ways to keep an eye on their citizens. Government data makes it much more difficult for people to get away with these things. There are serious long-term consequences for getting caught doing something dodgy. But it's taken decades for developed countries to build up all this infrastructure. China, at the time, had almost none of it. Now you might be asking, how can that be possible? Well, it's important to remember that, very recently, China was a very different place.
There are 800 million peasants in China, 4/5 of the country's population, 1/5 of the world's. Government permission is needed to emigrate to the towns, and it's government policy to keep the people out of them.
In the early 1980s, the vast majority of Chinese people lived
to keep government permission is needed to emigrate to the towns, and it's government policy to keep the people out of them.
In the early
That's crazy. You need permission to emigrate to the towns. And the government job is to keep them away from them as well. Now, there's this really interesting kind of idea about China and its development over the last 30 years that I think people should take into consideration for the West, for the most part, when the Industrial Revolution happened for the West. There was incredible amounts of migration that was happening all across the Atlantic at this point. So for the American Industrial Revolution, people were coming from Europe into North America, by the fucking millions to support their industrial growth. There was a lot of internal movement within, places in continental Europe and England in order to support kind of the industrialization. Also at that point, the transition was happening from feudalism to capitalism. And so you had people, again, on the land that were now moving to the cities to find work. And so that was fueling the industrial armies that were building up around the Industrial Revolution. Now, China is really no different in that regard. And many people say, look at China, for example, they don't have migration policies there. They've industrialized, they've done it all China style, and they don't let foreigners in and all that sort of stuff. They have tight immigration policies, and they've been able to industrialize incredibly over the last 30 years. But what fucking China did have was, this guy's saying, a population of about they had access to 800 million people, 800 million people that were, able to be transformed to a largely peasant existence into an urbanized workforce. Now, you don't need to open up your fucking borders to get a workforce if you're rapidly industrializing when you've got 800 million people at your disposal. So it is interesting to think about in the historical context of what happens during industrialization, that if you see a country like China and people are just the Chinese have China and the Indians have India and all that sort of, rhetoric, and the Japanese have Japan, these countries traditionally haven't needed migration policies in order to fuel their industries, to fuel their industrialization. Now, the colonies, somewhere like Australia or something like that, America, they have needed people to come into the country as they industrialized rapidly because they didn't have a peasantry. They didn't have a population that was kind of kicked off the land because of privatization. They used to be, living on the manor of the Lord or something like that. They didn't have that situation, and so they would traditionally drag people from other cultures or other places, probably in the Commonwealth, depending on where you were, to fuel their industrialization efforts. And so they're different formulas for industrialization, given what access you have to labor power. It's all about like fucking humans and throwing them at machines and, you know, producing value and all that sort of stuff. But like, you know, China, look at that. They said 800 million people at that point. 800 million people. That's fucking mental. Feudal lords, eh? Peasants in the fields. Stay in your fields, but give us your crops. And as we industrialize rapidly, we'll tell you when to come in. And that's what they've been doing, the Chinese. They've definitely been doing that. Like, hey, come to the cities. And people have just been, you know, moving to the cities in droves. China has some of the best green farming land in the world. That's why their population is so large. Has been able to sustain large mass over thousands of years. Did you notice 20 years ago, Nestle used to go into Chinese hospitals and convince new parents that formula was far superior to breast milk? I've heard about this. What happened was, and they do it all over Southeast Asia as well, I've heard. What happened was children were started on formula milk, and because there was no need for mothers stopped producing breast milk, this created a dependency on formula milk to feed children. Nestle is evil. And yes, I've heard about this phenomenon. I actually heard about it though in like, I think it was in Malaysia, I want to say. But like, must have just done it all over, Southeast Asia, or all over Asia, I guess. We use this when we're studying public health policy and place private money has when developing public health policy. And the place, private money has when developing public health policy. Interesting. Oh, goddamn, boys, RIP Rob Reiner. I'm going to go watch Princess Bride after this. Interesting. I think I heard about that this morning. Right, back to this. Dr. Nathan, you're not streaming on Tuesdays or anything? Because I've got to watch this and I've got to bounce. I've got to go early today. So I'm just going to finish this one off. But let me know.
In the 1980s, the vast majority
Nestle is evil. Never buy Nestle products. Don't fuel the
majority of Chinese people lived in small rural villages where everyone knew everyone and knew who could and could not be trusted. But over the last 45 years, China has transitioned from a nation of 80% peasants to a nation...
You put it in Discord. Like an actual post? Like what does he call it? Truth Social post?
Of 65% city slickers. The villages now have 1 million people in them, and it's impossible to keep track of everyone based on reputation alone. While China introduced a national identity card in the 1980s, by the time of the 2008 Olympics, hundreds of millions of Chinese people still didn't have bank accounts or credit reports. They did not file tax returns, and they did not collect social security pensions. Many worked in jobs that typically require some sort of certification, but did not have one. And even if those documents did exist, they certainly weren't centralised in any useful way. The system was a mess and ripe for exploitation by frauds, scammers, and other untrustworthy types.
I think it will and must change, because now all Chinese consumers have totally lost faith in the country's quality supervision. If they want to get back people's confidence, the relevant laws, punishment and compensation must be improved.
That's where this document Rick Falkfinger wrote about comes in. When the 2014 planning outline for the construction of a social credit system document talked about trustworthiness, this is what it meant. Its primary purpose wasn't to figure out who is speaking ill of the dear leader, but to help people figure out who is tipping industrial chemicals into baby formula. The government decided that it was going to address all of these issues with one system, the social credit system. They laid out plans to assess people's financial credit, introduce social credit codes like social security numbers or tax file numbers, and create public databases to look up whether a business you were dealing with was dodgy. The thing is, though, the Chinese central government isn't directly controlling every facet of Chinese society, and it's never has.
Funny when you say
There's an old dictum from Chinese history.
They're gonna provide everyone with a centralized database, like when you have a tax file number or a social security number or something like that, or a business number, like all the ways that we check people in other societies or Western societies, I guess you would say. What did he say about him? I didn't get it. Should I care? Very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, tortured and struggling, but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession with President Donald J. Trump, and his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness. And with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before, may Rob and Michelle rest in peace. Wow. Fuck me dead. No fucks given, man. No fucks given. Eh? What a backhanded way to say that about somebody who's just died. The difference in China is often just that they're honest about what they're doing. In the US, the government tries to pretend like it's not censoring and spying on the public. Yeah, no, right. We were talking about that just before.
About the emperor is far away and the mountains are high.
Local governments and agencies are generally able to interpret Beijing's desires as they see fit.
There were posters way too articulate to have come from the president himself. Social media team. Eh? Thank God for a social media team. Just make it really offensive. Eh?
When Beijing said they wanted a trustworthiness system, thousands of officials set about trying to figure out what that should look like. The way they implemented these systems is kind of quaint, but in an authoritarian way. Tyrannicute, perhaps, or kitschtopian. In the city of Rongqing, a small group of people were employed to walk around town with notepads jotting down people's good and bad deeds. Each month, a local committee turned those notes into positive or negative points for people on a register. In 2019, even that system, quaint as it was shut down after the central government told them that people could not be punished for bad scores, only actual crimes. In most parts of China, though, the main way people encounter social credit is in the form of blacklists. One investigative journalist by the name of Louis Hu found this out the hard way.
In 2015, Hu lost a defamation case after he accused an official of extortion. He was made to publish an apology and pay a fine, but when the court demanded an additional fee, Hu refused.
Blacklists are usually reserved for businesses, but individuals who've been sued or have poisoned milk with industrial chemicals, and even journalists like Hu, can also end up on them too.
Then in 2017, he found himself suddenly locked out of society. Under a pilot social credit scheme, he'd been blacklisted as dishonest.
Now, someone who isn't paying court-mandated fees would be considered dishonest in any country, but
Hu maintains he has fully met the terms of his 2015 case. He believes his blacklisting is political, but he has no way of challenging it. His poor social credit rating has shut down his travel options and confined him to effective house arrest in Chongqing.
Being on a blacklist restricts your ability to do basic things like buying train tickets or which school you can send your children to. The question is, though, is this an indication that the social credit system is inherently bad? Or is it an indication that in an authoritarian country like China, the state abuses otherwise innocuous institutions to punish dissent? 10 years after the publication of Rick Falkfinger's article, the original text is now gone. It's been replaced by an article by a different author which says people often wrongly portray China's social credit score system as some omnipotent AI apparatus automatically scoring citizens on their every behaviour.
But fucking Jordan Peterson said it. Jordan Peterson wouldn't lie about that, would he? No. No, he wouldn't do that.
There is still no sign of any national social credit scoring system in China. Nobody is getting their vending machine access cut off because they did a bit of light jaywalking. Or at least, not yet. Reporting on stuff happening in China is notoriously difficult. It's a very big country with an enormous population and a very secretive government. Also, Western journalists struggle to get visas, and the ones that do get in can't just wander around the country finding out what's really going on there. China's secretive government definitely does oppress people. Those who voice dissent are routinely...
It's like they're describing someone with an arrest warrant in the US for not paying court fees, except there's no quasi-military arrest squad angling to put a knee on his neck. Savage.
routinely jailed without justification, and social media usage is heavily policed. But that doesn't mean that every single one of their policies is purely designed for oppressive purposes. When you read a blog post by a self-described pirate about a fantastical, futuristic, Black Mirror-esque dystopian AI-powered surveillance system, it is worth checking out whether or not it really exists.
There you go. We don't get a lot of this stuff. Eh? And I know that people have a pretty fair skepticism of the ABC, but I don't understand where the ABC bias would come in to an investigation of China in this regard. Happy to be corrected on that one. But it is interesting to see how the propaganda machine works. Like, that was just a given. Like, I've heard so many people say that, so matter of fact. And like, before I started, like, you know, on this venture and discovering and like in researching all the stuff that I researched, like, you know, I thought that was a given. I was like, you know, China has a credit system. You didn't know that? Like, what does it actually mean? I don't know. They're watching people all the time and they stop them from doing things. They encroach on their civil liberties. That would never happen in the West. Never, ever, ever would we encroach on people's civil liberties. Hell no. But like, yeah, it's interesting to see that whole myth, I guess you would say, or narrative, or that style, that understanding of Chinese culture or its way of life is potentially completely fabricated. And thanks to the interpretation of one person from Sweden who read a report and like not only interpreted it, but like it might not have been translated well. Like the word for that they've used for credit might actually mean credibility or something like trustworthiness. So it's a social trustworthiness scheme in the context of a country that was rapidly industrializing without centralized administration systems like, you know, most government structures have. It was looking to hold people accountable for atrocious deeds. Like, that is a way different explanation compared to the, like, oh, they're just watching people. And like, you know, someone like with the influence of, you know, Jordan Peterson just being like, that's it, they watch you when you jaywalk kind of thing. And they'll deduct money from your bank account. Like, where did he get that story from? Did he hear that from someone, take it on face value? Or did he, you know, did he get that? Is that a plant? Is that really definitely there? So people are, you know, scared of China. Like, I know heaps of people that would probably base their entire perception of how authoritarian China is just on the social credit system. Just on the social credit system. Their whole perception of China would be based just on that factor. Fuck it, it makes you think. It really makes you think. I do know someone that got a visit during COVID times because of things they said online over China. Like with any country, though, there are negatives and positives. Yeah, fair enough. And like, I know people that are Chinese living in Australia and they get on WeChat and they say the wrong thing and like they get cut off from WeChat. So like, they're being monitored. But like social credit score kind of thing, that's like, it seems way more ubiquitous than kind of what they made it out to be, like right there. Very interesting. I guess like a lot of things, the answer's somewhere in the middle, right? Dialectics much? 4AS would have liked that if he was here. Now, I have got to bounce, but thank you everyone for hanging out today. We've covered some very interesting territory, I must say. It was very interesting going over the various theories for the Bondi stuff. And like, it's interesting to see this stuff too, right? There's such a interesting legacy out there of, you know, what China is really all about without actually asking the Chinese what they're about. That seems to be a massive thing in the West. So, it's interesting to see these things come out in the wash sometimes, I must say. But I can't see everybody, but I'll list who I can. Just here to watch a trash fire, Dilemmas and Dr. Nathan, Jag, Voltateur, Avalava. Razor was in the house earlier. I'm not sure if he's still here. Who else have I missed here? Spandonk was here for a little bit too. Who else did we have? Jonathan Swift, KK in the house, Jerriga, now Cubic Cube. I don't know if I've missed you. I do apologize if I have. But yeah, thanks for interacting, everybody. And if you're watching this after the fact as well, hit the like button, etc., etc. Oh, Gumma Cheese Wing, seriously. Just at the end there. Hello, how are you? We were just about to leave, but thanks for saying hello. But yeah, thank you, everybody. Now, there is no stream tomorrow. I've got something on and I can't stream, but we'll be back on Thursday. So I'll put something out anyway, just to remind everyone. But there's no stream tomorrow. We'll be back in 2 days' time. But yes, thank you, everybody, for hanging out today. And enjoy your hump day. It's Wednesday tomorrow, so enjoy the hump. Get in there and make the most of it. And then I'll see you in a couple of days' time. All right. Until next time, please remember, I am, you are, we are a mystery. I'll see you 2 days.